Marxist attack on religion and nature, the very building blocks of our society.
Augustino's Rock and Roll Deli, a family-owned restaurant, a Chicago family favorite for over 40 years. Why? Because they're known for sub sandwiches the size of your forearm. No joke. Their 6-inch sub has more meat and cheese in it than any foot long in an Irish neighborhood. These sandwiches are iconic, famous for their homemade Italian beef, meatballs, burgers, and of course, delicious Italian subs loaded with mortadella, cabagol, salami, provolone, and their own secret sauce called Love Potion Number 9. This vinegar and oil dressing is famous on its own. Both Augustino's locations boast walls covered in authentic rock and roll memorabilia and artifacts, all celebrating their love for good old-fashioned rock and roll. Augie's is a feast for your eyes and your stomach. Dine in or carry out. Bring the family or the team. Plus, Augie's caters corporate meetings, parties, and celebrations. Don't make it yourself. Make it happen with Augustino's. Go to Augustinos.com for locations and menus. That's Augustinos.com.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So on Friday, it was RFK Jr. endorsing Trump. Yesterday, after President Trump laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier in the company of Gold Star families who lost a son or daughter at Abbey Gate during that catastrophic Afghan withdrawal. Yesterday it was Tulsi Gabbard's turn. Trump spoke to the National Guardsmen Association, I should say. And Tulsi Gabbard spoke after him and had this to say about why she was folding in with the former president.
When I share with you that I know that President Trump understands the grave responsibility that a president and commander-in-chief bears for every single one of our lives. Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort. The truth is, as we head towards our decision as a country in November, the same cannot be said about Kamala Harris. In fact, the opposite is true, and we're living through this reality today as this administration has us facing multiple wars on multiple fronts and regions around the world, and closer to the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before.
Right, and the backdrop.
This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief.
Well, there's the money line. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat congressman, former Democrat presidential candidate, excuse me, now folding in with President Trump, in part because, as she said, his record of promoting peace rather than instigating or escalating war. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer, and text line. And again, it can't be overstated, the presence of those Gold Star families. It can't be overstated, the 3-year anniversary of that catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan, particularly because we were all lied to, and lied to repeatedly, and are still being lied to. And, you know, it's interesting to me how the Gold Star families who lost a son or daughter in service to our country at Abbey Gate, how they basically speak with one voice in condemnation of this administration. You know, that's unusual. If there is an overture made by the commander-in-chief, by a presidential administration to someone who lost a son or daughter serving our country, you know, there's usually, the family is inclined to give the benefit of the doubt. Knew it was dangerous, you know, appreciate that there's a recognition of my son or daughter's service to this country and so forth. So the anger that's directed from those Gold Star families, and by the way, the Trump campaign put out about a 7-minute video of all these Gold Star families.
Yeah, saying that Biden never even said their name.
Commenting on, their experience or lack of experience with the administration. But it is rather unique because most of these Gold Star families, my experience is they don't want to get involved in partisan politics. They want to defer to being, their default position is essentially respect for the commander-in-chief, respect for the country, respect for the service, dealing with a loss. And, this is not a time where they want to have to engage in political antagonism. But nonetheless, these families feel the need to do so.
And what they emphasize, too, is that when they're taking their flag-draped coffins off the plane, Biden kept looking at his watch. And one mom said he didn't just look at his watch once or twice, but he looked at his watch 3 or 4 times.
Well, and
said it was so disrespectful.
And don't forget what Cheryl Rex, she's a Gold Star mom. She is the mom of Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, what she said about her interaction with the big guy.
When Joe Biden, our elected president, entered the room, when he approached me, his words to me were, my wife Jill and I know how you feel. We lost our son as well and brought him home in a flag-draped coffin. My heart started beating faster, and I started shaking, knowing that their son died from cancer and they were able to be by his side. Also wondering how someone could honestly, be so heartless to say he knew how I felt a little over 24 hours and learning of my son's death. After this encounter, I have never had any personal correspondence, nor has my son been honored or his name spoken by this commander-in-chief or his administration on what I feel is because of their failures and poor planning to exit our troops from Afghanistan.
Kathy Barnett, we brought you yesterday. She's a Gold Star mom of Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover. She never heard anything from anybody in the administration. So you can understand their disappointment, to say the least, with how their sons and daughters were looked after by this administration, and then how the administration treated their being killed in service to this country after the fact in terms of the interaction with families. But also, to this piece about being lied to, which just makes it that much worse. It's that much more insulting. So these emails out this week, John Kirby, John Kirby is as good as any Soviet-era mouthpiece that I can recall. He would have been very comfortable being Leonid Brezhnev's press man. John Kirby is all the time saying, this idea of a chaotic withdrawal, I don't know what you're talking about. In point of fact, some say we should have started mass evacuation sooner. Couldn't this have been done in a more orderly manner? I respectfully disagree. The bottom line, there's no evacuation from the end of a war that you can run without the kinds of complexities, challenges, threats we face. None. The president is very proud of the manner in which the men and women of the military, the foreign service, and so on conducted this withdrawal. I've been around operations my entire life. There's not a single one that ever goes perfectly according to plan. For all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it, not from my perch. Yeah, that's John Kirby. In the wake of the catastrophe, 13 service members dead, and what everyone saw on that tarmac, that was it. I didn't see the chaos. Well, it's interesting. Now we have emails. I saw this at Just the News, John Solomon's outfit. One State Department situation report emailed to Kirby on August 16th of 2021, 10 days before that suicide bomber killed those 13 Marines. Refer to, quote, breaches and, quote, flight line insecurity at the airport that resulted in the exchange of gunfire that killed 5 Afghans and may have wounded an American soldier. Quote, the crowd in this email, quote, the crowd was out of control. The firing was only done to diffuse the chaos. Hundreds have flooded the flight line and in at least one case have forced themselves onto at least one U.S. military and other civilian aircraft. Crowds continue to run alongside planes, including military aircraft. Several Afghans clinging to U.S. aircraft fell to their deaths. Another email that same day from Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's speechwriter urged Kirby to consider having the Pentagon chief use a public event with a foreign counterpart to provide a, quote, serious topper on the Afghan chaos. No, that word chaos was used. There was no chaos. Not that from Kirby's perch. There was from the perches of other people that were involved in the planning. And remember, Trump has said everybody involved in the planning of this withdrawal is gone. Most of them, I'm sure, if he were elected, will be leaving willingly. They won't need help finding the exit. Kirby received an email a day after the Marines were killed by the suicide bomber. Kirby received an email from an Army major trying to rescue his Afghan-born interpreter. The email described a grisly crackdown by the Taliban, reporting they were killing former interpreters and those trying to escape. Were frustrated by the disorganized U.S. efforts to evacuate them. Quoting from the email, it seems up to the discretion of the Taliban and U.S. service members on the line in the midst of the chaos, the major wrote to Kirby the day after the suicide bombing. In all, internal Pentagon emails to Kirby used the words chaos or chaotic more than 24 times, in stark contrast to how Kirby was relaying the situation to the American people. Craig in Mount Greenwood, you're in Chicago's Morning Answer. Hey, Craig.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is me.
Yeah,
hey,
I know.
Hey, thank you, Dan, for taking my call. You know, remember when they took that one guy on the, they had him where they got the excuse for the FISA warrant to wiretap originally, Donald Trump and everything like that. And this thing with Tulsi Gabbard, they put her on the terrorist watch list. These three-letter agencies can do the same thing they originally did with Trump to spy on the campaign and all this stuff. I don't know if nobody's talking about it and everything like that, but it's the same play that they used initially with his campaign when he started out.
Thanks for the call, Craig. Well, actually, Tulsi Gabbard mentioned it in her remarks yesterday, and we'll talk about that at 5:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
80 degrees at 5:30 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. A top White House official has arrived in China for talks on a relationship that has gone sour during President Joe Biden's term in office. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, will be in China for the next few days. Palestinian officials say Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip have killed at least 18, including 8 children. Ukraine's president says nighttime Russian drone and missile attacks have left at least 4 dead overnight after a heavy barrage pounded the country's energy facilities. A bipartisan task force made a visit to Butler, Pennsylvania, all part of an investigation into the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Florida Republican Congressman Corey Mills.
This is a culture of a fostered DEI society whereby they are not trying to send their best.
In other news that we're following this morning, the Kamala Harris campaign is asking for a rule change in an upcoming presidential debate, unmuting the microphones. Here's Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House.
The same campaign leadership team that wrote these rules for Harris, this is how they frame it. Quote, the vice president is ready to deal with Trump's constant lies and interruptions in real time. Trump should stop hiding behind the mute button. But back in May, they called for muted mics for the benefit of the American voters. Harris still has not explained her border plan. On foreign policy, Democrats say she will break from Biden on key issues like Israel, but asked for specifics, they repeated Biden's lines. Even the plans that Harris has explained have been quietly redlined by her allies.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich. Dangerously hot weather continues in the Chicago area. Excessive heat warning for the northeast of Illinois and a heat watch for northwest Indiana. Many schools, including CPS, are managing the heat with modified schedules. CPS CEO Pedro Martinez says it's not their cooling systems, it's ComEd Power that they're watching.
Our biggest challenge is not so much our systems, it's really ComEd. So if we have any power issues, that's usually when we struggle. And so that's what we're going to be monitoring. But we feel fairly confident about how we're going to handle our buildings. So again, we're just going to be watching to make sure there's no power issues.
Attorneys for former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan are asking a federal judge to exclude certain evidence from his upcoming racketeering trial. In a motion filed yesterday, Madigan's lawyers requested details about gaming legislation, sexual harassment allegations, as well as other topics be removed. And demolition begins today on the site of Bally's permanent Chicago casino. Crews will begin tearing down the former Chicago Tribune Publishing Center. Cubs blast the Pirates 18-8. Well, the White Sox lost to the Tigers 6-3. And the Bears waved 9 yesterday ahead of the 53-man roster deadline today at 3 p.m. The news, a service of Health Insurance Mentors. Are you 65 or older thinking about Medicare? Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Call Stephen Tucker today. Visit healthinsurancementors.com or 630-674-1551. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk knows who's running this country.
Elon Musk and Donald Trump do not need to be in this fight. But there's something very special, and they know that the current rotten-to-the-core ruling class must be removed, that they are poisoning this country, from the media to the D.C. decision-makers to the big tech oligarchs.
The Charlie Kirk Show, afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Can you read this email for me?
Of course. Jeez, I wish they could do something for your eyesight.
Me too. But you heard what they said. There's nothing we can do.
When vision loss can't be corrected with glasses or surgery, and hope seems lost, turn to Spectrios Institute for Low Vision. Spectrios doctors specialize in the treatment of vision loss related to eye diseases, such as macular degeneration, glaucoma, and diabetic retinopathy. There is hope, supported by science with personalized rehabilitation plans, occupational therapies, and access technology at Spectrios. Talk to a patient service manager. They'll walk you through the program. Spectrios takes BCBS and Medicare insurance. They also have grants for qualifying patients and offer a Seeing is Believing children's outreach program. Go to spectrios.org, located in Wheaton in a building that says it all, the House of Hope. That's SPECTRIOS.org. Spectrios Institute, the head, heart, and eyes approach to better vision. Remember to keep Spectrios Institute, a 501c, in your estate or legacy planning.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds in conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel. Home to the biggest shows on TV, like Dennis Prager weekdays at noon Eastern, followed by Jay and Jordan Sekulow at 2. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free now on Xumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Xumo.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combines heritage and innovation in every cup. Our coffee is locally roasted, hot air roasted, and cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Whether you prefer a 12-ounce bag or a 28-ounce bag, or even the convenience of K-Cups, you'll find Papa Nicholas Coffee at your local retailer. Taste the difference that 5 generations of expertise brings. Choose Papa Nicholas Coffee, because great coffee is our family tradition. Visit online at papanicholas.com. That's papanicholas.com.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
5:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average. To get your smile back, learn more at almostfreeteeth.com. Addison reported an accident rolling an Army Trail this morning. CTA commuters' Yellow Line service is delayed with irregular service. Allow extra time on the CTA Yellow Line early this morning. Jammed and slow traffic inbound on the Bishop Ford, 103rd into the Dan Ryan. Ryan itself at 16 minutes into the Burns Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Partly sunny, very hot, strong afternoon. Thunderstorms are possible and a high of 97. Currently 80 degrees. Your next news is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy talking about the counterinsurgency, if you will, of former Democrats endorsing Trump. You had RFK Jr. on Friday. You had Tulsi Gabbard yesterday. And Tulsi Gabbard not only addressing the issue of war and peace in her remarks in support of Trump, but also that story that we talked about a few weeks back that really still has no sort of conclusion, which is that Tulsi Gabbard is on some sort of watch list under DHS, where wherever she travels, she's being followed around by U.S. Marshals. So somebody else...
Talk about an overreach of government. Think they're nervous about something?
Somebody else ostensibly suffering political retaliation for breaking from the orthodoxy. That's certainly her viewpoint on it. And here's her larger commentary on the weaponization, much ballyhooed weaponization of law enforcement, federal law enforcement agencies to exact political retribution against your opponents.
And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat. Kamala Harris has done this over the last 3.5 years. She won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target, added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as president. We as Americans must stand together to reject this anti-freedom culture of political retaliation and abuse of power. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
Don't you mean freedom? How about that?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment. So President Trump's not the only one under political retaliation.
Well, no. I mean, we've documented any number of cases over the years, and that's what he needs to continue to remind people. They're coming after me to get to you. They will do the same things to you that they do to me, and even worse, because you have less capacity to fight back than I do. And Tulsi, my friend Tulsi Gabbard is a good example of that. Tulsi Gabbard's a former congressman. She served our country honorably in the military. She's actually deployed in a theater of war, unlike Tim Walz. And yet we can't get an answer as to why U.S. Marshals are following her around when she travels domestically.
It's such a waste of time. I mean, don't they have better things to be
It's a little bit worse than a waste of time.
Well, yeah, it's weaponization of our system.
And
take down a political opponent, not even opponent, somebody that just didn't conform in their ways. She's a Democrat. She's supposed to act in a different way.
Well, here again is, if you want to know the new Bolsheviks, listen to them describe their opponents. That's how they tell you who they actually are. All this talk about freedom at their little party in Chicago last week. And, of course, the record is quite the opposite. They want to model this country after the increasingly totalitarian states in Western Europe. It's an odd thing to say, but describing the behavior. And I'm not just talking about the arrest of Pavel Durov, the CEO of Telegram in France, but I'm including that, and the arrest of British citizens for quote-unquote speech crimes on social media, but I'm including that. RFK Jr. was on with Tucker Carlson yesterday, fresh off of his weekend coming out party in support of Trump, if you will. And he talked a little bit about Europe and a little bit about Musk and a little bit about America.
We've lost Europe. Europe does not have free speech. Look what's happened to Elon Musk. And Elon Musk should be the hero of the Democratic Party. Of the old Democratic Party, he would be the hero. Somehow he became a villain because he was actually the only platform that would allow free speech on his platform. And he's now become a villain because of it, because the Democratic Party does not believe in the people. If you don't believe in free speech, it means because you don't trust the people. You don't trust them to figure it out on their own, to have information on which they can base their ideas and their notions and their beliefs.
And their votes.
And that the government has to protect them from dangerous information, from things that might put bad ideas into their heads. And it's very patronizing, but it's also very manipulative and conniving, and really it's exactly the opposite of democracy. And you will not find a single Democrat who will criticize it.
Just a couple of former Democrats. Corey and Woodlawn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, thanks, Dan, for taking the call. I've got a quick statement to make. The media, the Democrat Party is using the media and lawfare and racism to get Donald Trump. I'm going to make a quick statement. I was at his first inauguration in 2016. I went to D.C. I got my tickets from Mark Kirk. He was an exiting senator at the time. We went there. Beautiful event. I was in a sea of a bunch of people with red hats. I had my own red hat on. The media came up to me and looked at me and said, why are you here? And after I gave him the rundown of how many crooked Democrats are in Chicago, we've had 3 aldermen in the Woodlawn neighborhood go to prison for doing all types of shenanigans. 20 minutes later, the guy just looked at me and said, man, Chicago is an anomaly. It's an outlier, it shouldn't be the way the Democrat Party would want it to be. And he kind of walked out. I searched for that interview for like an hour when I got back to the hotel. They never posted it. They don't want to hear the truth about what's going on in these neighborhoods. They have a narrative, and they're going to stick to it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Corey. That's good little anecdote. Robert Bloomingdale.
Good morning. Yeah, it's the other side, the Republicans. I'm not talking about Republicans. The Trump side is very also strange with all this stuff too. Trump said he will release all the Kennedy papers, and then he didn't, and now he's baiting us again. He's going to release them again. Secondly, Trump said when he was running in 2016, he loves WikiLeaks. He loves WikiLeaks. He can't believe what's coming out on WikiLeaks. And all of a sudden, he didn't know anything about WikiLeaks, didn't say nothing about Julian Assange. Trump's playing everybody, too. He's playing. This is all a big game. I don't know what the game is, but it's a game, and he's playing the other side of the game.
Okay. I mean, I don't recall. Maybe he did. Trump say he was going to, during his presidency, he was going to release all of the documents associated with JFK's assassination. Well, if he did, I don't recall. Maybe he did. But if he did, he's said it again, and this time in the presence of RFK Jr. And so maybe that will hold his feet to the fire as needed a bit more than in the previous term. I think Trump has learned a lot of things from his first term, things he didn't know, people he didn't know, dynamics he didn't fully appreciate or understand, which is why I'm a lot more optimistic about his second term than I was his first, even though it turned out to be better than I expected. I think there's a lot of things that he can do with his legitimate executive power as it pertains to the administrative state. And I think he's inclined to do them. So that's just a reading of the tea leaves. But, people respond to incentives. He has incentives through the roof to take on the administrative state. And frankly, if he just accomplished that, if he defenestrated the leadership of these alphabet soup agencies and perhaps riffed 10, 20, 30, 40% of the civil service in these agencies, that would be a massive accomplishment. That would be the predicate for a paradigm shift in federal government and a realignment of federal power versus state power versus individual power. So that's my focus. I hope it's Trump's. I hope he's more disciplined than he was in his first term to maintain mission focus. We'll see. George in Naperville.
Yeah, Dan, with the adults back in power, they have to keep tabs on those who stray from their authoritarian control. That's why that lady's being followed.
Thanks for the call, George. Greg Schomburg.
Kennedy on Friday, Gabbard yesterday, and late last night, Zuckerberg issued a statement confessing that his organization was harassed and coerced by the Biden administration. What do you read into this, Dan and Amy?
That's a good question. The timing of this is very interesting, the Zuckerberg statement. I believe the government pressure was wrong. I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight, new information, we wouldn't make today, talking about the company complying, essentially, Facebook Meta, complying with the pressure from the government to remove things about COVID and other such matters to de-emphasize the Hunter Biden laptop story and so forth.
Right. He expressed regret over Facebook's decision to demote the 2020 New York Post article about Hunter Biden's laptop.
It's been made clear from the reporting it was not Russian disinformation. In retrospect, we should not have demoted the story. I mean, yeah, I know this has been clear for years now, so why now does this statement come out?
Well, people, rumblings on social media that he's going to back Trump now, which I think might not happen. But other people, high-tech giants have joined Trump's campaign.
I mean, in a light most favorable to Zuckerberg, maybe it's just him telegraphing that to the federal government that, number one, I'm not going to go along, and number two, telegraphing to his users, particularly with all the fanfare associated with Musk, that he is going to adopt a more Muskian position with respect to political discourse on Facebook for the remainder of the campaign. That's taking it in the light most favorable to Zuckerberg. But he's a slippery character. So I'm not sure. You know, I clearly do not trust him because of, you know, prior conduct. And he's made these statements in support of free speech before, usually at congressional hearings, because that's what you're supposed to say. And then his company has acted, you know, in a way that runs afoul of the statements he made. So I don't know. But I mean, you know, we're here on the cusp of Labor Day, and he decides now is the time to send the signal before the 2-month sprint to the finish. Maybe. Possible. Maybe he's done flacking for this administration. I don't know that he's done flacking for that party, but maybe this administration.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Raj Shah, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
You know, there are a lot of clients and people coming in from the radio into our office saying, I don't want to lose any money. I need to protect the money I have saved over the last 20 or 30 years, where you have strategies where you can structure an income stream where it has an inflation protection so that as inflation, if it continues to go up, your income will go up.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Dennis Prager here. Join me on an unforgettable cruise to the Caribbean this November. We'll cruise to the vibrant islands of Half Moon Cay, Curacao, Bonaire, Turks and Caicos, and much more. We'll be joined by special guest Sean McDowell, and we'll both be sharing insights into current events in a way I hope energizes and challenges you. Secure your spot before space runs out by calling 855-565-5519 or book online at pragercruise.com.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trucking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Attention college and university students. Introducing 2 brand new revolutionary books published in chemistry and physiology that'll make both easier to understand. The first book, entitled New and Effective Method for Solving General Chemistry Problems, details an amazing method that simplifies chemistry problems down to fractions of multiplication and division. Students, you no longer need to memorize and use any chemical formula. The second book, entitled The Only True Outline of Physiology, reduces an entire 300-page physiology textbook down to 105 pages by eliminating excessive wordage that can be time-consuming and confusing. The Only True Outline of Physiology underlines the information most likely to be asked on exams and helps you better understand the principles of physiology. For more details on either book, visit Zarantos-Publishing.com. Both are available on Amazon or at Zarantos-Publishing.com in a digital format and in print form upon upon request. Say goodbye to confusing chemistry and physiology content. Get these books today. That's Sorrentos-Publishing.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Yeah, maybe Zuckerberg is discarding this administration. Maybe even he is growing tired of pronouncements like this one from John Kirby, the Soviet Pentagon spokesman, who had this to say on Cavuto about the escalation of the conflict in Gaza and the Middle East and what's going on in Ukraine, the arrest of Pavel Durov in France, the world on fire. What did Kirby have to say?
I'm a little confused, John. I know the president took vacation last week in California after the Democratic convention. He's heading another week to that in Rehoboth, Delaware this week. How engaged is he in any of this?
He's very engaged, Neil. I mean, you know as well as I do, the President of the United States, wherever they are, have access to all the communications and all the advisors that they need. I mean, he was being updated on the attacks over the weekend in real time by his national security team. He was on the phone with Prime Minister Modi today talking about Ukraine. And last week, he made several calls to try to make sure that we could get these ceasefire talks off to a good start. He's watching things very, very closely.
Okay, does he Zoom call too? Conference call?
He has a phone and a pen. That's all you need. He's got access to his advisors. You know, Jake from State Department is hanging around somewhere, fluffing his beach towel or some such thing. Yeah, he's a dynamo. He is probing. He's exacting. He is on top of things. He's monitoring from his bunker in the middle of the earth. He's got all the screens, real time. He's in communication with Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Charles Brown, who's on the ground in Israel. They're strategizing about forging a ceasefire. Oh, sure, right. All that stuff is still going on. It's amazing. Even after the party dumps him because he is none of those things that he that they claimed he was, as everyone saw in that debate, John Kirby still sticking to the script. Comrade has a slight cold, but otherwise she's doing fantastic. Okay, John.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
A little bit more from RFK on debating, since I think we have the reconfirmation the September 10th debate between Kamala and Trump is going to happen.
Good, because we have a debate watch party we'll tell you about and how you can join us. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
Jake Sullivan in China for the next 3 days. We'll have an update on that story for you coming up at the bottom of the hour. For us, dangerously hot weather and an off-duty Chicago cop accused of attacking his officer girlfriend. WIND Chicago News Time, 6 o'clock.
Mike's on or Mike's off. Gianna Gelosi, Fox News. The Trump and Harris campaigns are clashing over debate rules as the candidates head to key battleground states this week.
The standoff involves mics. It was President Biden's team who proposed muting mics when a candidate isn't speaking for the debate back in June. Now, Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign wants to reverse that rule. Former President Trump's campaign says it's Harris who can't stay on message. Trump, though, is floating the possibility of not showing up to the ABC debate on September 10th at all, as he criticizes the host network. Harris and her running mate Tim Walz will kick off a bus tour in Georgia tomorrow. Trump is heading to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania later this week.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. The debate is scheduled for September 10th on ABC. Real Clear Politics polling averages show the vice president with a slim 1.5-point lead over the former president. But former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard has become the latest Democrat to jump ship and hop on the Trump train. Fox's Kevin Cork.
One-time Democrats now endorsing former President Trump's return to the White House underscores a bit of a shift from the politics of division. People saying we are now choosing country over party. The latest to answer the call, former Democrat, Hawaii Congresswoman and veteran Tulsi Gabbard. Gabbard's endorsement coming on the 3rd anniversary of the suicide bombing that killed 13 U.S. service members following the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. And it was a day that saw President Trump also honor their sacrifice at Arlington National Cemetery.
That is Fox's Kevin Cork. The bipartisan task force investigating the assassination attempt of former President Trump visited the rally site yesterday.
We are committed, all of us, to ensuring that we understand what happened on this day and that the Secret Service and their law enforcement partners are providing that transparency.
Florida Republican Laurel Lee, America is listening to Fox News.
80 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Dangerously hot weather continues to drape the Chicago area. For Chicago and the suburbs, an excessive heat warning, a heat watch for northwest Indiana. Many schools, including CPS, are managing heat with modified schedules. CPS CEO Pedro Martinez says it's not their cooling systems. It's ComEd's power that's worth watching.
Our biggest challenge is not so much our systems, it's really ComEd. So if we have any power issues, that's usually when we struggle. And so that's what we're going to be monitoring. But we feel fairly confident about how we're going to handle our buildings. So again, we're just going to be watching to make sure there's no power issues.
Meantime, brand new numbers from the Illinois Board of Education's most recent Illinois report card. 27% of Illinois public school students in grades K through 12 are meeting grade level standards in math. 35% meeting grade level standards in English. Mariana Barragan-Torres is a research specialist with the University of Illinois.
Their scores have been decreasing consistently since the beginning of the pandemic, with no recovery across either subject.
Torres also says the Illinois report card shows chronic absenteeism at a rate of 28.3% in public schools, up from 16.8% in 2018. An off-duty Chicago police officer is accused of attacking his fellow officer girlfriend during an alcohol-fueled incident last week. Officer Francisco Galvan faces misdemeanor counts of domestic battery and driving under the influence. Galvan has been relieved of his police powers. Cubs beat the Pirates 18-8. Dansby Swanson a grand slam. Miguel Amaya 4 RBIs. Cubbies swipe 8 bases. It's the first time since 1913. Jamison Taillon gets the win. White Sox lost to the Tigers 6-3. The Bears waived 9 players yesterday ahead of the 53-man roster deadline today at 3 p.m. The news service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Choose Papa Nicholas Coffee because great coffee is their family tradition. Online at papanicholas.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka sees big tech at it again.
They're trying to erase that event completely from history. Google is trying to make it impossible to just search for the phrase assassination attempt of Trump. Why? Because this is who they have become.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
NYPD officer Jonathan Diller's tragic story made national headlines this year. Now, Jonathan was shot and killed by a career criminal during a traffic stop. Jonathan, who's just 31 years old, leaves behind his wife Stephanie and 1-year-old son Ryan. Now, nothing will ever replace the loss of a husband and a father, but the Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to pay off the mortgage on the Diller family's home. Please commit to $11 a month. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
What a waste of time, money, and vacation days. Hi, Amy Jacobson here. And if you've had a bad knee or hip replacement surgery, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because sometimes the surgery doesn't even work. But there is an alternative, QC Kinetics. Check it out before you go under the knife. QC Kinetics uses your own body's properties to repair damaged joint tissue due to arthritis or an injury. Folks, it's regenerative medicine. Think about it. If you cut your hand, it eventually heals. But don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself with a free consultation. And what's really cool is the fact that Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, the National Medical Director and former orthopedic surgeon, is located right here in the Chicago area. Call now to end your chronic pain and learn more about QC Kinetics. They have new locations in Gurnee and Crystal Lake. Saturday appointments available. The number to call is 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
6:07, let's get an update on the roads. We do that in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. And this look at the roads, a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more at almostfreeteeth.com. Kennedy inbound already at 35 minutes. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Dan Ryan inbound, accident, left shoulder. It's inbound approaching the Circle interchange. And on the Bishop Ford this morning, accident, right shoulder. It's inbound between 111th and King Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partly sunny, a strong thunderstorm around this afternoon. Could see some flash flooding. High today at 97. Strong thunderstorm in the area tonight, low 73. Variable cloudiness, not as hot but humid tomorrow, a high 86. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
80 degrees at O'Hare. Next news at 6:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We should mention our condolences to our friend Pastor Corey Brooks. His godson was shot and killed. I texted with Corey yesterday, and he just, my condolences, of course, and he just said thank you, and he just said to keep his family in our prayers, which we will do. It's very sad. All right, the debate, as you heard from Mike Scott's newscast, we seem to be past the contretemps over hot mics versus mics being turned off and so forth. So the debate's going to happen on September 10th. That will happen.
And we have a debate party, and I don't have the liner in front of me, but I know you can go to am560.com/debate and sign up. It's going to be in Hoffman Estates on September 10th.
Moretti's and Hoffman Estates.
There you go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We'd love to see you. Take two. We did this before, so it's like deja vu with a different candidate.
It could be another catastrophe for the Bolshevik Party. I mean, certainly that's what RFK Jr. thinks in his conversation with Tucker yesterday, or at least that was posted yesterday, and it clearly happened after his endorsement of Trump on Friday. This was RFK Jr.'s review of Kamala.
Being able to defend their policies and being forced to defend their policies articulately, eloquently. And, you know, my uncle and father just thought ideas are important and we should be able to defend them. And if you can't defend them, there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
And, you know, why? So we have a presidential candidate that was selected by the Democratic Party who can't do that.
Yeah, it could be a problem if she does indeed make it to that debate stage. Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s former running mate, now
she's starting to grow on me.
Now, you know, companion surrogate.
Yeah.
She was on Adam Carolla's podcast, and she had this to say about Kamala Harris.
I think Kamala Harris is dangerous to me because she is the
ultimate puppet for an organization that has, I believe, since President Obama, not actually run real people.
Mm-hmm.
They have selected amongst a very small group of individuals that they can control and dictate policy over.
Yes.
I don't think Kamala Harris is somebody who will sit here and tell you how she feels. I think that human capacity of hers has long gone.
Yes.
I think that what she now represents is corporatism.
Mm-hmm.
She represents a huge amount of cronyism, and I do believe that she is using messaging, and this is the part that worries me the most, is that she uses messaging in a way to get populations of young, unknowing, innocent people to join her on these false virtue signal ambitions and actually take on policies that will eventually really hurt them in the future. My mother is from communist China.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up hearing about what the famine was like in communist China.
Right. Well, she's going to do price controls at supermarkets, so we don't have to worry about that.
But that is exactly how you get to a famine. I mean, this is...
I know.
This is the basics. This is communism 101.
It's well, it is, but it's much bigger than price controls. I mean, this, you heard essentially Maoist language coming just this short of just this side short of the Great Leap Forward during the convention. Nicole Shanahan on the messaging piece of this. She doesn't have the human capacity to actually provide an independent or authentic thought. She is just a cipher for the left. Now, she said since Obama, she's just a kid, so she doesn't appreciate this perhaps, but Obama was a cipher too. They've all been ciphers for the radical left. It's just that Obama was slicker about it. He recognized the job. He wasn't completely oblivious to the fact that he was an automaton. But I got to say, I mean, thinking about Kamala Harris and somebody like that, I mean, even the big guy, you have all these titles, and at some point you start to believe in your own virtuousness and moral rectitude and superiority. And you have a bunch of people around you trying to protect the public from you, trying to protect you from self-immolating. So I'm Kamala Harris, and I'm this pioneering prosecutor and attorney general and U.S. senator and vice president. And I'm in a hallway, and Peter Dusme asks when I can get an interview, and I'm scurrying away from him saying we're working on it. I'm afraid to debate. I mean, don't you have any... I would just think somebody would have enough ego, enough self-respect to say, what are you protecting me from or them from? I'm fine. I can make an argument. I can take this guy on.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line 64636. 312-642-5600 is where you can also text us. I mean, she could be disastrous at this debate. You're right. She could be just as bad as Biden.
Yeah, but,
she's pushing
but
up
her own psyche.
Right. Well, she doesn't believe in herself.
I guess.
And her capabilities. And she's been, pulling the wool over our eyes for the past, 4 weeks, 6 weeks?
She hasn't been
and
pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. Well, I shouldn't say anybody, but she hasn't been pulling the wool over our eyes, half the country's eyes, more than half the country's eyes. There's some people that want to be fed beautiful lies. I mean, we're in the base camp of that here in Chicago, of course. But, I mean...
time's ticking. I mean, she said she was going to give a one-on-one interview. Not a press conference, but a one-on-one interview before the end of the month.
Yeah, okay. And so, yeah, I know. We're all waiting with bated breath to see who she selects for their one. You know how silly this is? You know how ridiculous this is?
You know, she's
to have this conversation? We're waiting with anticipation. The Axios reporting she has agreed. We should get the announcement within days of who she will deign to be interviewed by.
Queen
Do you know
Kamala.
this is again? This is also Soviet. By the way, we're going to talk to Rebecca Kofler at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, who is a former intelligence officer who knows something about what about the all the classic earmarks of a Soviet or a Soviet misinformation, Soviet information campaign, because that's what we have going on here. And of course, the D.C. press corps is an important part of that. I just the idea. I mean, that's what she should be challenged on. Why is it so difficult for you to stand and deliver? You did it during the campaign in 2020 when you were running for the Democrat nomination, didn't you? So why you disappear now? What are you afraid of? What are you trying not to say? That's what I'd like to know. On the matter of debate, we additionally have Trump out on the trail, making promises and talking to actual human beings. This was sort of fun yesterday after his laying of the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, after his remarks at the National Guard Association. He skipped over to a Vietnamese restaurant in Virginia.
Falls Church, Virginia.
And one guy was super excited to have him.
So thank you for those.
I like it. I like the cadence, too. There's a nice setup. That little staccato, kind of almost Taylor Swiftian, setup to that. That was very good.
I wanted to say, we all fight for you, sir.
Something else that RFK Jr. said, just going back to that. I thought this was interesting, talking about, and it sort of brings in Tulsi Gabbard's comments about war and peace as well. RFK, in his conversation with Tucker, talking about what JFK wanted for his epitaph.
What does the rest of the world think of American democracy right now? That we have in one party selected a man with dementia to lead the free world, and then turned around and picked a person, a woman who cannot give an interview. She cannot defend her vision or America's record in the world. And then she gave this, Vice President Harris gave this speech at the convention that was written by neocons. And they had CIA directors talking at the Democratic Convention, military people talking at the Democratic Convention. My father and my uncle were the party of anti-war. My uncle was asked by his best friend, Ben Bradley, one of his two best friends who ran the Washington Post, what do you want on your gravestone, your epitaph? And my uncle said immediately he kept the peace. He said the primary job of a president of the United States was to keep the country out of war. He said he didn't want children in Africa and Latin America and Asia, when they heard about the United States of America, to think of a man with a gun. They wanted them to think of a Peace Corps volunteer and the Alliance for Progress and USAID, which were programs that he created to build the middle class, to end run the oligarchs, end run the military juntas that used to receive U.S. aid, and instead go directly to the poor and build institutions, education and health and all of the institutions of democracy, to continue to model it for the rest of the world and live up to what we were supposed to be doing, which is to encourage the growth of democratic rule.
Well, he's got Kamala sussed out, and there's some aspects of what he said about JFK that are on point. But of course, I mean, this is where I part company. One of the many areas I part company from RFK Jr. First of all, the government doesn't build the middle class. I'm so sick of that language. Government doesn't build classes, doesn't build people's prosperity or independence. How does a government make you independent? Doesn't that strike you as oxymoronic? Yes, well, it is. Government creates or restrains itself, rules of the game, police, courts, national defense, to make sure that people can toil privately and enjoy the spoils of their toil. That's how you provide for, in a sense, the environment for people to be productive, independent, successful, and so forth. Building this middle class. All these government programs that he's talking about, USAID and so forth, these are boondoggles. And this idea that we build democratic institutions and thus democracies externally through these, in the grand scheme of things, relatively small aid gambits is absurd. This, the image is a Peace Corps volunteer. That's all very best and the brightest utopian silliness. What people should think of, what I would say you want people to think of when you think of America is you want to think of Lady Liberty, not a Peace Corps volunteer, Bobby Jr. However, the other piece of what he said about JFK's epitaph, and he told his good buddy Ben Bradley, one of his best friends. Well, by the way, that's part of the problem, too, when the president's best friend is the editor of the Washington Post. This is all sort of part of the D.C. ruling class mentality that took hold, isn't it? But I digress. There is something, though, to that. I mean, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole on this, but, I know people may think of that. Well, he wanted to be, I kept the peace. Well, JFK got us in Vietnam and the Bay, the Bay of Pigs and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think if you look back on it, and I actually did a paper on this back in college. Not that I'm any sort of expert, but it was interesting to read at the time. That JFK was a devotee of counterinsurgency. And I think there's a pretty strong argument that could be made that had JFK not been assassinated, we would not have escalated the American presence in Vietnam the way that it ultimately escalated. You wouldn't have lost 50,000 Americans in Vietnam. I think there's a pretty strong case to be made for that he did not favor a conventional land war in Vietnam, and that he saw a lot of the dangers of being bogged down, the quagmire that ultimately became if we tried to fight a conventional war in Vietnam. And with respect to Cuba, I mean, you don't want the Soviet influence in the Western Hemisphere, and so the, order of the day, including the sort of direction of the CIA, was to be in the business of cutting heads off chickens, which you could argue about. But I don't think that JFK was a warmonger. So I take RFK Jr. at his description of what JFK wanted, and he thought these were surgical paths to a more peaceful world, right? I mean, being a man of peace is not being unwilling to go to war, but it's not war at the first resort. It's not nation-building gambits, as we've had to learn the hard way. So I thought that was an interesting comment that probably warrants a deeper discussion. It might be a very interesting one with RFK Jr. Maybe we'll get him on the show. Wouldn't that be fun?
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Augustino's Rock and Roll Deli, a family-owned restaurant, a Chicago family favorite for over 40 years. Why? Because they're known for sub sandwiches the size of your forearm. No joke. Their 6-inch sub has more meat and cheese in it than any foot-long in an Irish neighborhood. These sandwiches are iconic, famous for their homemade Italian beef, meatballs, burgers, and, of course, delicious Italian subs loaded with mortadella, cabagol, salami, provolone, and their own secret sauce called Love Potion No. 9. This vinegar and oil dressing is famous on its own. Both Augustino's locations boast walls covered in authentic rock and roll memorabilia and artifacts, all celebrating their love for good old-fashioned rock and roll. Augie's is a feast for your eyes and your stomach. Dine in or carry out. Bring the family or the team. Plus, Augie's caters corporate meetings, parties, and celebrations. Don't make it yourself. Make it happen with Augustino's. Go to Augustinos.com for locations and menus. That's Augustinos.com.
Are you a business owner with a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, and a plan for growth, but you just need the right bank? Hi, Mike Gallagher here, letting you know that Signature Bank is all about going the distance for commercial banking customers. It's what Signature Bank does every day. Their team understands that accessibility is key to their culture. In times like these, you want a bank that is there for you to weather the bad times and capitalize on the good. And with Signature Bank by your side, you can't go wrong. It's a true partnership. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. I believe in what they have to offer. From innovative tech and customized solutions to help your business grow and thrive. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
One of the most important decisions you can make as a parent is where you send your kids to school. But these days, it's never been harder to know which school is best. Public schools have changed a lot, and you might be thinking about sending your child to a private Christian school. But you also know that private school can be expensive, and in this economy, you might think it's not an option. Well, think again. With halfpriceschools.com, you can purchase tuition vouchers for half the price of normal tuition for private schools. For nearly 10 years, halfpriceschools.com has helped families from all over Chicagoland make the dream of private school a reality. And that can be the reality for you and your child too. Just go to halfpriceschools.com, search for a private Christian school near you, and purchase a voucher. It's that easy. Visit halfpriceschools.com. That's halfpriceschools.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Sports and politics and sports and politics and sports and politics and intersection. Arrogance and ignorance, arrogance, ignorance, and arrogance and ignorance. Intersection.
Yeah, we're only a week away from the start of the NFL season.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to play fantasy football this year?
No.
We're all done with that, huh?
Colin Kaepernick.
He wants back in, folks. He's ready to go.
But we're talking a lot about reversals of positions these days. Zuckerberg's reversal on his censorious compliance with the federal government. And this was Colin Kaepernick. I mean, just a few short years ago.
I'm old enough to remember when
the NFL draft was a modern-day slave auction, according to Colin Kaepernick.
Before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, and examine you, searching for any defect that might affect your performance. No boundary respected, no dignity left intact.
So then after his commentary, you had a theatrical performance of a slave auction.
Right. And now he wants to be part of the organization he once called slavery.
Well, he wants to be part of any organization now.
We're going to work on some things, see if we can make it in there, but would love to be out there.
And will we see you play NFL again?
We're still training, still pushing. So hopefully we just got to get one of these team owners to open up.
What would it mean to you to play NFL again?
I mean, it's something I've trained my whole life for. So be able to step back on the field, I think that would be a major moment, major accomplishment for me. Also, I think it's something that I could bring a lot to a team and help them win a championship.
You want to be the white man's chattel, Colin? Why doesn't anybody ask him that? What? Are you the same guy who said this 5 minutes ago? Now he just wants back in, now that he's 36 years old and the window is closing, if it hasn't already closed. Now all of a sudden, it's not so much a slave auction. It's a league he'd love to play in, opportunity to help somebody win a championship. What did his girlfriend leave him?
Yeah,
Is you off the Black Lives Matter bandwagon? What's going on, man?
Talking to his adoptive parents again. Not adoptive, his real parents that lived in Wisconsin.
Those honkies?
Yeah, they're white. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:36, remember those highlights from the COVID era of people dressing down school boards and so forth? At least that sort of expression of revolt against the COVIDians, the totalitarians they were. Well, we've got revisiting of that to do because we've got a new sort of totalitarianism at the local government level. This is very Orwellian. It's the be nice sort of fascism that attempts to shut people up. We'll bring you to the surprise one lady got in Surprise, Arizona at the village board meeting, 6:36.
But first, let's stop into that newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
6:32, 79 degrees. A top White House official has just arrived in China for talks on a relationship that has been severely tested over the last 4 years during the Biden administration. Jake Sullivan will be in China until Thursday. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump are scheduled to hold their first debate in a couple of weeks, but that may now be up in the air. In a Truth Social post on Sunday, the former president, Donald Trump, questioned why he should face off with Harris as both camps now fight over debate rules. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz.
I think Trump needs to do the debate, and frankly, I think he should agree to whatever stupid rules they want. It's going to be hostile and rigged regardless, and I think Kamala Harris would love to cancel the debate and blame it on Trump.
Harris campaign senior advisor Brian Fallon says the Trump campaign prefers the muted microphones because, quote, they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes, end quote. On the anniversary of the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, former President Donald Trump speaks to the National Guard Association's General Conference in Detroit. He expressed his condolences for the lives lost.
We will never forget those brave warriors who made the supreme sacrifice for our country. They will live in our hearts forever. And to all the Gold Star families, our gratitude is everlasting.
13 service members died. The former president also attended a wreath laying at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. Walmart recalling almost 10,000 cases of apple juice sold at its stores across the country. The batch of Great Value brand apple juice was found to have potentially dangerous levels of arsenic. The recall originally announced by the FDA on August 15, but was updated to a more urgent level this week. And we're following a developing story out of Northwestern University this morning, where the school says it had the safety of Arab medical students at heart when their photos were deleted from the medical school's online and social media platforms. Photos in question show students wearing head coverings symbolic of the Palestinian struggle. The Northwestern chapter of Students for Justice in Palatine posted an open letter calling for an apology from the Feinberg School of Medicine. Dangerously hot weather continues to strike the Chicago area. Another day of mid-90s with heat index values at about 115. In other news we're following this morning, an off-duty Chicago police officer is accused of attacking his fellow officer girlfriend during an alcohol-fueled incident last week. Officer Francisco Galvan faces misdemeanor counts. Galvan has been relieved of police powers. And attorneys for former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan are asking a federal judge to exclude certain evidence from his upcoming racketeering trial. Madigan's lawyers want details about gaming legislation, sexual harassment allegations, as well as other topics removed. Cubs beat the Pirates 18-8. While the White Sox lost to the Tigers 6-3. We'll be watching the waiver wire today in the NFL as it is cut-down day, deadline day. Rosters need to be at 53 by 3 p.m. The news, a service of Valdecas Windows. Contact them today for 50% off installation now through September 2nd. If you're a discerning homeowner looking for high-quality and professional-level window replacement, visit Valdecas.com. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Larry Elder does some quick math.
8 to 10 million illegal aliens in the country, some number, are here for bad purposes. Let's assume for a moment, do the lower number, 8 million. Let's assume, for sake of argument, 0.5% are bad guys. Do the math. That's 40,000 bad guys in the country.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Have you noticed all the ads for gold and silver? By now you know if precious metals are right for you. Quite frankly, most major dealers have roughly the same pricing models. Fox Valley Coins offers everything the other large national dealers offer, only with a local, personal touch. Fox Valley Coins will treat you like family. And if you want to stay anonymous, under most circumstances, they don't even need to know your name. Ha! Try that through the mail. When you buy directly from Fox Valley Coins instead of national dealers, you can pick out the actual pieces and they will scientifically analyze the items for authenticity right in front of you. That's a huge advantage. The reason is because 95% of fakes offered are purchased through the mail. Fox Valley Coins buys, sells, and performs appraisals of all precious metals, as well as rare coins and currency. Visit Fox Valley Coins in person, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at Naperville-Warrenville border. Fox Valley Coins, family integrity for over 43 years.
Join Allie Beth Stuckey and the Illinois Family Institute for the Faith, Family, and Freedom Banquet, 7 p.m. Friday, September 6th at the Tinley Park Convention Center. For tickets, go to IllinoisFamily.org.
Christianity brings civilization, goodness.
Allie Beth Stuckey, wife, mom, author, followed by thousands on her hit Relatable podcast. Hear her fresh and firm call for Christians to lead in Illinois, in America, for faith, family, and freedom. For tickets, go to IllinoisFamily.org.
Christians have always been on the front lines of human progress, set in love.
Allie Beth Stuckey and the Illinois Family Institute's Faith, Family, and Freedom Banquet, Friday, September 6th at the Tinley Park Convention Center. For tickets, go to IllinoisFamily.org. IllinoisFamily.org.
It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
6:39, a quick check on the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Kennedy inbound at 53, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Ike outbound, an accident at Des Plaines Avenue. It's being shoved onto the right shoulder. Stevenson, an accident inbound at Pulaski, and delays on the Dan Ryan with an accident in the locals inbound right at the Chinatown feeder. Traffic also a service of Lowe's. Shop Labor Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, buy one, get one free on select interior paint via Lowe's gift card rebate because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 9/4 while supplies last. See Lowes.com/rebates for details. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny, very hot. Strong afternoon thunderstorm possible with a high of 97. Currently 79. Your next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Rebecca Massey is a mom who lives in Surprise, Arizona. And surprise, Rebecca, your village council are a bunch of thugs.
Uh-oh, what'd they do now?
This during a public comment section, she stood up to complain about the exorbitant salaries of some municipal employees, in her view. I think that's fair. She's a taxpayer. Can you talk about salaries? Sure you can. Here's how that went.
Are numerous public records requests that I have open right now that are, quote, pending legal review that I am entitled to request.
I've got to interrupt you here because...
Okay, are you going to stop the timer?
This is the public meeting forum that you agree to when you speak, and I want to read this to you, that there are oral communications during the city council meeting may not be used to lodge charges or complaints against any employee of the city or members of the body, regardless of whether such person is identified in the presentation by the name or by any other reference that tends to identify him or her.
That's all fine, well and good, but that's a violation of my First Amendment rights.
Yeah, so that's, well, this is your warning, okay?
A warning for what?
A warning for attacking the city attorney personally.
This is all factual information.
It doesn't matter.
You're violating my First Amendment rights.
This is what you agreed to when you first speaking. This is the form.
It is unconstitutional, Mayor Hall.
Well, it's not unconstitutional.
It is.
And if you're
the Supreme Court has upheld. I could get up here and I could swear at you for 3 straight minutes, and it is protected speech by the Supreme Court. It is.
No, you can't.
Why don't you look at case law?
No, you can't.
I can.
So if you want to be
also the chair is engaged in debate. So
do you
point
want
of
to be
order.
escorted out of here? Do you want to be escorted out
You're
of here?
violating my First Amendment rights.
Talking.
You are violating my First Amendment rights.
That's your opinion.
It's not a matter of opinion.
Do you want to be escorted out, Ms. Massey? Because that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen in the future also. Anytime you attack
That's why you changed the rules.
Or any
That's why you changed the rules.
This has been on the back of this form.
I understand, Mayor Hall, but that is completely unconstitutional.
No, it's
You're
not.
Also engaging in debate, and so you should actually be yielding the floor to somebody else managing.
Chief, could you have somebody come down here and escort Ms. Massey out?
Really, is that necessary?
Chamber? Yes, I think it is.
In front of my 10-year-old daughter, you're going to escort me out for expressing my First Amendment rights.
She can go with you.
I'm not leaving.
Well,
I'm expressing my first. Do not touch me. Do not put your hands on me.
Can you just step out with me?
Do not put your hands on me.
Come on out.
Do not put your hands on me.
Come out with me now before you get arrested. Do you understand?
Are you detaining me?
Yes.
Why am I being detained? Under what charges? Under what charges?
okay, so
I have personal property. Hold on. You cannot touch me.
Yeah, I know. She can go out there. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go into E-session.
Motion to go into E-session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're going into E-session.
I'm sure Skip Hall is a nice guy.
He sounds lovely.
I'm sure the village board members and surprisers are all nice people, just like we hear all the time here, in the face of thuggery and fascist conduct, really. Oh, yeah, I know Skip. He's a nice guy. I know this person. She's a nice person. Everybody's nice. And, you don't have a constitutional right to be mean. Oh, wait, you do. You do. By the way, Rebecca Massey, 100% right on the constitutional law. Skip Hall, the mayor, 100% wrong. New York Times v. Sullivan, Mattel versus Tam, Iancu versus Brunetti. You're not allowed to attack any municipal employee or call them out by name or reference them such that somebody might know who they are. What country is that? No, it's Arizona. We only accept compliments here. This is like the streets department in the city of Chicago. We don't accept complaints here. We just accept compliments. Of course, sure. Everybody be nice. It's amazing that an incident like that would happen, where, by the way, the mayor, I assume Corp Council was there. They're all wrong. It's not even a close call. Massey is 100% right, and I hope she does sue. Not only are they wrong, the mentality that is evinced by that exchange you just heard. We don't accept complaints. We only accept compliments, essentially. Here's a good example when I'm talking about. I mean, did we all live through COVID together? Did you watch what happened at your government schools? Not limited, but especially. Here's one of my favorites, because this is what it reminded me of. Like, what's a good example of this sort of thing that occurred during COVID? Do you remember Simon Campbell, Pennsbury, Pennsylvania? This was one of the best flourishes at a school board meeting during the COVIDian lockdowns of the schools and shutdowns of people's ability to express themselves, challenge the policies that were being instituted. Simon Campbell.
It seems to me that you think you can supersede the United States Constitution. I've got news for you, School Board President Benito Mussolini. Your power does not supersede that of the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment rights of the citizens of this great nation. Let's be very, very clear who has the power.
Mr.
It is
Campbell,
not government policy. Do not warn me or do not interrupt my time. This is my comment, not your comment. I'm quoting to you now from the United States Supreme Court 1964 case, New York Times versus Sullivan. This is constitutional case law in this country. This nation is founded on the, quote, profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues shall be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. That's constitutional case law in this nation. I don't have to be nice to you. Nobody behind me has to be nice to you. If you don't like living in the United States of America, then you can all move to Russia, Cuba, or China. This is the First Amendment. My right to critique your fascism, which is what this is constitutionally protected. We've got the school board president saying she'll do better at hitting the mute button in blatant violation of the Constitution for her lobbying and her advocacy of unconstitutional censorship. I want you, the school board, to terminate the employment of Dr. Charissa Gibson with immediate effect. And after you've terminated her employment, I want all of you to tender your resignations for hating on this country. We have a God-given constitutional right to critique you, and we can speak in any lawful tone that we see fit. And don't go looking around, Benito, because this is the United States of America.
It doesn't get much better than that. But, I mean, the reality is that living in a free society, particularly now, if you have not been apprised of the dangers, requires the Simon Campbells and the Rebecca Masseys of the world. Thank goodness for them stepping up when so many others won't. Right? Oh, meanwhile, what's the left proposing? Tim Walz, your potential next vice president, who believes that the First Amendment doesn't protect speech that he considers misinformation, particularly as it pertains to our democracy. Kelly Robinson, one of the new generation of new Bolsheviks. She's the head Bolshevik, the Human Rights Campaign, the LGBTQIA Two-Spirit plus organization of goons and thugs. Here's what she had to say recently about the need to reimagine democracy.
We can't just worry about protecting democracy. In this moment, we've got to reimagine it with people that look and love like us at the center. And I think for us right now, it's about reimagining freedom and this American story in a way that is more revolutionary than what our founders actually put down on that little piece of paper, but instead is the type of democracy that is by and for all of the people of this country. That's the opportunity that we have.
what our founders put down on that little piece of paper. Well, that's not revolutionary enough. The real revolution comes when we model ourselves after some Maoist regime. Reimagine democracy, more revolutionary than what the founders put in a little piece of paper, where we, so on and so forth, people that love like us, whatever the hell that means. I mean, whatever she thinks it means, it's the road to serfdom. Whatever Skip Hall thinks being nice means, it's the road to serfdom. Whatever those COVIDians who lord over the Pennsbury, Pennsylvania school district mean, whatever they think they mean with their safetyism during COVID, it's the road to serfdom. But for Simon Campbell and Rebecca Massey and many other examples of people who stood up during COVID in particular, and at the school board level in particular, but for them. Russell Crowe was on Rogan show. He had a comment about America that I thought was interesting, coming from an Aussie.
Here's the thing with America, right? You've got to remember that it is the beacon of freedom for everybody in the world. It's a huge responsibility, you know? And if people are looking for something to change in their life or something positive, the vast majority of people will look towards America and say, well, that's the beacon. You know, I want to live like that, where people can say what's on their mind and people can have differing opinions. People can be of all different, you know, races, religions or whatever and still be in the same community, you know? It's so important that America remains healthy into the future for everyone, not just for Americans.
Agreed.
The question about whether that's going to be what comes to pass, that's another question, isn't it? Need more Rebecca Masseys and Simon Campbells. That's for sure.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds in conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel. Home to the biggest shows on TV, like Dennis Prager, weekdays at noon Eastern, followed by Jay and Jordan Sekulow at 2. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free now on Zumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Zumo. AM 560, The Answer.
That sound means it's time for In-Depth History with Frank, the history teacher from Arlington Heights. Because there's nothing new in this world, just the history we don't know, and Frank does. This is an interesting one. Frank, take it away.
Good morning. We the Living was Ayn Rand's first novel. In it, she tells the story of a family that struggles against the state in post-revolutionary Russia. Rand can best be described as a humanist atheist. She was militant in her rejection of God, but fiercely strident in her defense of individualism, human achievement, and capitalism. Mary Harris, later known as Mother Jones, can best be described as a humanist progressive. One of her most famous sayings was, "Pray for the dead and fight like hell for the living." And what a life she had, despite the incredible tragedy it contained. Born in Ireland in 1837, her family migrated to Canada and then the U.S. She first worked as a teacher, and in 1861 she married George Jones, a union activist, and moved to Memphis, where she gave birth to 4 children. Then, in 1867, she lost her entire family to yellow fever. Now alone, she moved to Chicago and started a business, only to lose it in the Great Fire. But she persevered and turned her life into one of service to others, in this case as a union organizer during a time when working conditions were horrible. In 1903, she led mostly teen girls on the March of the Mill Children from Philadelphia to Oyster Bay, New York, to protest this child labor to President Teddy Roosevelt. They were ignored. Later, she was dubbed the most dangerous woman in America after her involvement in coal miner strikes in what she dubbed the medieval state of West Virginia. She died in 1930 and is buried in Mount Olive, Illinois, in a miners' cemetery. As we celebrate this Labor Day, and as we try to expel this rather hateful regime on November 5th, it'd be wise for Donald Trump to remember how wide he needs to cast his net for votes. All humanists, whether atheist or liberal or conservative, will be needed to pull this off.
Yeah, well, she also spawned a magazine. I'm not, forcing her to be held to account for it. That is Mother Jones, the magazine, which has been full of communist tripe since its inception. Yes.
It is, but you look at her life and what she contributed. She was, truly a remarkable woman, and we have to reach out to people, who are humanists. Humanist progressives, there are them out there, people who care about humanity and regular people. And that's the kind of coalition Trump has to build.
Yeah, RFK Jr. and his running mate are sort of examples of that, too. I mean, I hate to apply the term sentimental barbarians to them, even though it sort of is appropriate. But you're right. You're right about that. I agree. I mean, in terms of an electoral...
Did you ever see the movie Maidawan in 1987?
Yeah.
Yeah, great movie. I thought that was a great movie. I like the church scenes. They're out there singing, and then the Pinkertons.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. So, good movie to see.
All right, Frank. Appreciate that. Thought-provoking as always. Frank from Arlington Heights.
Happy Labor Day.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
7:07, Rebecca Koffler, former intel officer on Kamala the Soviet. 7:07.
It's 7 a.m. WIND Chicago.
On or off? I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. 2 weeks from the first scheduled Trump-Harris debate, they're squabbling over a rule where microphones would be muted while the other candidate's speaking. That's how it was for the Trump-Biden debate in June.
The same campaign leadership team that wrote these rules for Biden is now pushing to change them for Harris. This is how they frame it. Quote, the vice president is ready to deal with Trump's constant lies and interruptions in real time. Trump should stop hiding behind the mute button. But back in May, they called for muted mics for the benefit of the American voters. Harris still has not explained her border plan. On foreign policy, Democrats say she will break from Biden on key issues like Israel, but asked for specifics, they repeated Biden's lines. Even the plans that Harris has explained have been quietly redlined by her allies.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House, assuming the debate happens. It's September 10th, hosted by ABC. Vice President Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are making a major play for Georgia, kicking off a 2-day bus tour tomorrow. Fox's Jared Halpern has more.
No state was closer 4 years ago than Georgia, and Vice President Kamala Harris is trying to keep a coalition that propelled the state for President Biden in hand this year. Her and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, kick off a bus tour of southern Georgia tomorrow, ending with a Thursday rally in Savannah. Democrats have long relied on rallying support in the metro Atlanta area for statewide success, but southern Georgia is home to cities with large black populations. Harris and Walz postponed a trip to the state earlier this month because of Tropical Storm Debbie. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
A new Biden administration program offering an easier path to legal status and citizenship for some undocumented spouses of citizens is put on hold by a federal judge in Texas pending legal challenges. 16 states sued. Applications were already being filed. America's listening to Fox News.
.79 degrees. We have clear skies right now. Warm and humid conditions setting up for the day. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. And topping our news this morning, the dangerous hot weather with heat index values soaring to over 115 in some parts of the region. Many schools, including CPS, are managing the heat with modified schedules, and CPS CEO Pedro Martinez says it's not their air conditioning they're watching, it's ComEd's power.
Our biggest challenge is not so much our systems, it's really ComEd. So if we have any power issues, that's usually when we struggle. And so that's what we're going to be monitoring. But we feel fairly confident about how we're going to handle our buildings. So again, we're just going to be watching to make sure there's no power issues.
An off-duty Chicago police officer is accused of attacking his fellow officer girlfriend during an alcohol-fueled incident last week. Officer Francisco Galvan faces misdemeanor counts of domestic battery and driving under the influence. Galvan has been relieved of his police powers. A woman who was shot during a White Sox game in Chicago last year is now suing the team and the owner of Guaranteed Rate Field. Lawsuit accuses the team and stadium owners of negligence and claims they allowed someone to bring a gun into the park during a game against Oakland in August of 2023. It remains unclear how that shooting actually happened. And a Chicago man is charged with shooting a state trooper last year in Springfield. That man is requesting a new attorney. Cristobal Santana asked for the new lawyer during a hearing, claiming his current public defender hasn't communicated with him throughout the process. Investigators say Santana pulled a gun and fired shots at Trooper Dakota Chapman Green during a traffic stop in October of 2023. Cubs blast the Pirates 18-8. Dansby Swanson a grand slam. The Cubs stole 8 bases in the win last night. Jamison Taillon gets the W. White Sox surrendered 5 in the top of the 7th in a 6-3 loss to Detroit. The news a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Hot air roasted locally and cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Online at papanicholas.com. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
The two things that hit every family's budget the hardest are the price of gas and the price of groceries. And for the past few years, we've all been feeling that pain. That's why AM 560 wants to help fill your gas tank and your pantry. It's our gas and groceries giveaway contest. You could win up to $10,000 in gift cards for gas and groceries. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/contest. That's 560theanswer.com/contest.
The best things in life, they come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 tacos. And now for a limited time, get our best deal of the year. Buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as Big Wireless, now with 2 months free. Proof the best things in life really do come in twos. Visit consumercellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM. Second and third month of monthly base service fee waived for new customers with the purchase of a phone and activation by September 2nd, 2024. Taxes, fees, and third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Jerry Padgett II enlisted in the U.S. Navy and deployed multiple times to Iraq and Afghanistan until Jerry was catastrophically injured in an improvised explosive device blast Now, Jerry received a new smart home thanks to our friends at the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Now, the home is in the foundation's Let Us Do Good Village. It's in Florida, and Jerry now lives more independently thanks to the specially adaptive technologies. Commit to $11 a month, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
If you have high blood pressure, you have the #1 risk factor for mortality.
Don't be a walking time bomb. Make this change and watch your blood pressure drop.
Order a 120 Life today.
Yes, 120 Life is an amazing blend of superfruit juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure.
It's been endorsed by thousands of health professionals and doesn't have the side effects of medication.
It's up to you to control your blood pressure, not Big Pharma.
Seriously, 120 Life could be the natural game changer in your life. Try it yourself risk-free with a 2-week trial pack. You've got nothing to lose but your high blood pressure.
Go to 120life.com and use promo code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
120 Life is so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in just 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied.
Order the 8-ounce drink or powdered mix. From pomegranates to cranberries, it's the delicious way to lower your blood pressure. It really works.
Go to 120life.com now. Use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
.79 degrees at 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is service of almostfreeteeth.com. With the Blue Cross, Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, it's possible to save on average 90% for dental implants and get 100% of your smile back. Check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. The Kennedy at 1 hour, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike outbound, accident right shoulder, right at Des Plaines Avenue. You're backing up to Laramie. Inbound Stevenson, an accident inbound at Pulaski. Dan Ryan clearing an accident in the locals inbound at the Chinatown feeder. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partly sunny, some flash flooding this afternoon from a strong thunderstorm, a high 97. Partly cloudy, warm, strong thunderstorm late tonight, low 73. Variable cloudiness for tomorrow, and the high at 86. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
79 right now. Next news, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We brought it to you a bit earlier in the program, but it's so good. Let's revisit it. Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s former running mate, now co-surrogate for Trump, effectively. She was on Adam Carolla's show, and she had this to say about Kamala.
I think Kamala Harris is dangerous to me because she is the ultimate puppet for an organization that has, I believe, since President Obama, not actually run real people. Mm-hmm. They have selected amongst a very small group of individuals that they can control and dictate policy over.
Yes.
I don't think Kamala Harris is somebody who will sit here and tell you how she feels. I think that human capacity of hers has long gone.
Yes. I love that. That human capacity of her is long gone, like she's been dehumanized. Well, in fact, she has. It's the Anthony Eslin formulation. If you turn off the sound when you watch Kamala Harris, just use Kamala as an example, you know what she's going to say. Because there's nothing in between her ears. It's just political cant that she has been taught to recite. She is a party apparatchik. Peter Schweitzer was on with Bart Rome over the weekend. Schweitzer, the author of Clinton Cash and Secret Empires. Interesting, his perspective on Kamala's running mate, another apparatchik named Tim Walz. Tampon Tim, some call him. Schweitzer on Tampon Tim's relationship with the CCP. He spent a lot of time in communist China. And he's also spoken quite glowingly of communism as nothing more than people sharing their things with other people. Not like it happens at the point of a gun or anything. And Schweitzer thinks Walz was groomed. I mean, I wouldn't go this far, but I'll let Peter Schweitzer go this far because he's pretty based, as his previous work product suggests.
Do you believe that the Communist Party has been grooming Tim Walz?
Oh, I think there's no question about it, Maria. It goes back to the exchange program that he ran and brought hundreds of students from the United States to China. In the early press accounts, Tim Walz describes it as unique and unusual and different, a program that nobody else has. And at the same time that he's bringing those students there, by the students' accounting, Tim Walz is saying things like, well, in China, nobody is poor because everybody shares in China, as if sort of the compulsive arm of the CCP is voluntary. I mean, sharing is voluntary. It's a ridiculous statement to make. There are other comments he made. He told students going to China to downplay their Americanness. There's an account from one student, I haven't been able to independently verify it, saying that he brought back lots of copies of Mao's Little Red Book when he was in China. So this is a relationship that's long-standing, and it carried forward when he joined Congress and the actions that he was taking in Congress as well.
One man's socialism is another man's neighborliness.
Don't you forget it.
The Tim Walz credo.
Yeah. And he lived there for a year, fresh out of college in 1989 for an entire year.
Yeah, but it's a lot more recent than that, as Schweitzer recounts a trip to China by Walz in 16.
This is very concerning. You also have notes on a meeting that he had with Premier Lee in 2016.
Yeah, this is very interesting. He goes to China in 2016 with a few other Democrats. He recounts how he's meeting with Chinese officials, and he says, oh, I was here in China in December of 1989. And they said, no, it was February of 1990. I mean, in other words, they had been tracking him when he was a young man. But in that meeting with Premier Lee, it's a classic example of elite capture and what the Chinese call big help with a little bad mouth. Tim Walz has talked about the human rights condition in China, but it's never in the context of doing anything about it. And during this meeting with Premier Lee, he told Premier Lee, well, don't look to the United States as an example of how to do this because we don't know how to do it right either. Those are his descriptions of what he told Premier Lee. So it's this massive moral equivalence, which is exactly what China wants from elites in the United States. Talk about human rights, but don't do anything about it, and also create this moral equivalence that the Chinese system's not any worse than ours. That is exactly what Tim Walz has done over the years.
Yeah, Steve Kerr couldn't have done it any better. For more on this, pleased to be joined by Rebecca Koffler, writer and a former DIA intelligence officer. She's the author of Putin's Playbook and the forthcoming American Bolsheviks, the persecution of Donald Trump and the Sovietization of America. I'm so glad she's writing a book called America Bolsheviks, as I keep calling the Democrats the new Bolshevik party. So we're on the same page on that. But she's got a little bit more standing. She knows of what she speaks when it comes to the Soviets. Rebecca Koffler, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Of course. Happy to be here with you and Amy.
So, well, let's start with Kamala and those comments that Nicole Shanahan made about her being, sort of the perfect puppet of the radical left that dare not reveal itself at a celebration like the DNC. They put the face people out, the Clintons and the Obamas and the Kamalas.
Absolutely. I think Nicole is right on target. She is a puppet, just like Joe Biden was a puppet, and he was unceremoniously replaced when he has outlived his usefulness to what I call the American Politburo. All of these characters, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, there's a whole, team of them, and they definitely have taken a page out of Soviet playbook to transform America from a free capitalist society into a poverty-inducing totalitarian socialist government regime. And I can't believe I'm living through it because I escaped one. I came here in '89 from the USSR, and now I see this whole thing playing out right in front of my eyes again, and there's nowhere else to go.
When you write about this in a piece in the Post, but what were elections like in Soviet Russia? Not to go full Yakov Smirnoff here, but I mean, what were they really like?
Well, the election, there were no real elections. There was basically just a show election, a circus. Only one person was on the ballot, and you could only vote for that person, and the person was already pre-selected, just like Kamala was pre-selected by the American Bolsheviks and the USSR. A small group of people from the Communist Party pre-selected the person, and you had to choose that person, and you absolutely had to go and vote so that the Soviets could claim that the person was elected with the majority vote, and it never fell below 99%, right? That's how everybody was elected, whether it was Brezhnev or, a Putin even much later. You went to the polls. It was like a big, celebration staged by the Soviets with all kinds of gifts and treatments and music and children's toys. And if somebody didn't go, you would get, a knock on the door from the so-called agitator who would ask you, why would such a Soviet comrade not fulfill his Soviet duty? And then you would be labeled anti-communist with all the repercussions, at your job or at your school and, or worse. And so, there were no election campaigns, there were no party platforms, no debates. So everything was staged exactly as it happened with Kamala Harris.
Well, do you think they even bothered to count the votes? Or they just declared a winner?
They probably just declared the winner. Remember, back then there were no machines, no nothing. And what was the point of counting?
If there's one candidate, it's sort of past post, isn't it? Yeah. No, we're familiar with that in Chicago and in Illinois. That's how we select judges and legislators here, is what you're describing. But we're trying to not see that system scaled nationally. You also talk about in the piece too. I love the comparison contrast. I mean, because we're not quite there. We're not quite to that Soviet level yet. But I see the similarities you're making. The convention, last week's convention, and how it reminded you of Soviet communist congresses.
Right. It's all the lies. Here's what the Soviets did. We had only two channels, right? TV channels, and of course both were run by the state. The entire media was run by the state. And they would proclaim constantly during speeches, the Politburo, the Party Congress speeches, how amazing socialism is and how absolutely horrible capitalism is. It's a system of oppression and all of that. And meanwhile, people, of course, could just go to the store and see, empty shelves. On a good day, you could find, bread, milk, and maybe sausage. On a bad day, you could find nothing. So going back to the convention, so when Michelle Obama, came out and started talking about equality, and the Obamas own multi-million-dollar several mansions, right? They charge millions of dollars for speakers, so it's like completely surreal. And then somebody was talking about degrading one of the Democratic in quotes, of course, operatives, was trying to denigrate J.D. Vance for his elite school education. Meanwhile, all of the characters who were speaking at the convention come from, Harvard and Yale and all of the elite schools. And finally, as they are talking about joy and things like that, right outside the convention, the pro-Hamas protesters are wreaking havoc. It was basically, a war zone, and it's a war zone in New York right now where I live, because, they're trying to outlaw all of the self-defense, the kind of mechanism. The Second Amendment is not effectively upheld here, and so it's like sometimes I feel like I'm in an insane asylum, because you hear one thing out of the TV, which is pretty much has become a regime media, right? Anything, outlets like yours are very, very minor. Right, there are very few outlets in the United States right now that are not censored. Most of the platforms are censored, and Mark Zuckerberg just recently acknowledged that the Biden-Harris administration was pressuring Facebook to censor content that was related to COVID and other things. And so, yes, it's totally. You're saying we're not there yet, but to me, we will be there. If Harris wins, we will be there. We are firmly on a path to communism and socialism.
Well, this it's interesting, the description of the media landscape. I just had this conversation the other day with Cheryl Atkinson, and it's basically saying, these few investigative journalists that are left, many of them who have had previous careers in the corporate legacy media, like Atkinson or Catherine Herridge, Barry Weiss over at the Free Press. They, along with Conservative Talk, really represent sort of the Zamostat of America, right? There's the pamphlets that are essentially the 21st century version of the pamphlets that are being distributed around the censors quietly and so on and so forth, with an audience that is mainly the elites, frankly. And it's talk radio. It's a little bit more democratized, small d. But I mean, do you see that comparison as any sort of independent media or media that breaks from the orthodoxy of the government-centric identitarian elites is really like the Samizdat in the Soviet era?
Yes, exactly. It's like Samizdat. Samizdat basically translates as self-published. It was underground. And like you said, back in the USSR, they were distributing these leaflets so that people could get some information. But the truth is, yes, there are people like Cheryl Atkinson and Catherine Herridge do exist, but they're in the minority because it requires courage to do this. It requires courage. And also, it requires ability to make a living. And most people just can't really go against what I call the party line. I'm a freelancer right now, and I had a lot of business before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I was in every possible outlet. But after the Ukraine conflict with Russia or Putin's invasion, rather, because my analytic line does not coincide with the party line. My analytic line has always, and I'm an intelligence officer. I don't just give out opinions. I give an unclassified intelligence analysis, and my assessment has always been, since the very beginning, that there's no military path for victory for Ukraine. And as soon as I said that, many outlets simply don't invite me to write or to speak on TV about that, because all they want to hear is how wonderful Ukraine is and how they're going to win. Meanwhile, Ukraine is being destroyed right now. And Europeans are effectively using Ukraine as a human shield because they were not willing to pay for their own security. And I personally briefed scores and scores of officials in the Obama administration, in the White House, the Pentagon, combatant commands, NATO. I briefed NATO in the run-up to Putin's invasion of Crimea. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. And of course, it's easier right now to just give, throw billions of dollars of weaponry to Ukraine, although it's not going to make a difference at all. We're depleting our own arsenal. And Ukrainians they're being depopulated. The country is being depopulated. But we started with the censorship, right? You cannot write about it unless it's the Federalist or some outlet like that, because the regime media does not want to hear the truth. So censorship is not just like, it's not just banning something, but it's not reporting the truth. It's omitting the truth, keeping Americans in the dark so that we can continue to pump billions and billions into a foreign country while we ourselves are here experiencing major economic, downturn.
And, the other thing you said, too, in your piece, those who ignored their civic duty to vote for the one candidate they were given to vote for, got a knock on their door demanding to know why, comrade, you hadn't performed your duty at the ballot box yet. So you were anti-communist or anti-party. And it seems to me that's, there's no deviation that's allowed. So any sort of straying from the party line on any issue was intolerable, and you were then branded essentially as an enemy of the state or the people. And that's sort of what we have going on here, too. It's not like, Rebecca agrees with us about this tax policy, but she doesn't agree with us about Ukraine funding, providing aid to Ukraine, for example. And that's okay. We agree on some things. No. I mean, on Ukraine, on abortion, on climate change, on everything under the sun, on anti-racism and everything under the sun you have to comport to the party line. As soon as you stray, as soon as you're the nail who sticks up, to go back to the Stalinist era, then you're going to get pounded down.
Absolutely. And it's because they rely, the leftists, today's leftists and back in Soviet days and 30s, they rely on the brainwashing strategy of the people. And as soon as people, like myself, like Cheryl Atkinson, Peter Schweizer, as soon as they pop out and start deviating from the party line, then the danger for the leftists is that more and more people will find out the truth, and that just simply cannot be tolerated by the regime, and that is why they're trying to squash people like that. And so right now, everybody probably heard that Durov, the Russian, the founder of the Telegram, right? He was apprehended in France. This is the only platform that the Russian people rely to get uncensored information, and he had to flee back in 2014. And so now he's been arrested in France. Just think about that. And some of the people here in America, such as Colonel Vindman, who was in the Obama administration's White House, and in the Trump administration, and he was the key figure in the impeachment of former President Trump.
And now he's running for Congress.
Exactly. He's coming out and he's saying, well, the same should be done to Elon Musk. Elon Musk should be arrested. Think about that. So if Elon Musk somehow is arrested and Twitter, or the new name X, is canceled, it's going to be, it's going to be totally Soviet-esque, and people will lose that platform that was one of very, very few, along with Truth Social and a couple of others, that people can rely to get the truth. And once you can't rely on the truth, it's so much easier to brainwash you, and people are going to be just marching in lockstep with the regime, and they're going to be walking themselves into hell, which is socialism, which is what socialism is. It is hell, and the party tells you, and you're loving it, and everything is great, although you see with your own eyes. I mean, I cried when I first came to America, and I was taken to a grocery store, and I saw the plenitude, like all the foods and different apples, and they were shiny. I couldn't believe that it was real. I thought it was all like fake, that somehow my friends staged it. And then when I went to the second store and to the third store and saw the same type of abundance, I literally cried, because I realized that that my entire life I was lied to. I mean, we kind of knew that we were lied to, but when you see with your own eyes that the capitalist system that was always demonized by the Soviets can produce this amount of food. And it's not just food, but food is one of the basics that everybody can relate to, right? So you just realize, half of your life you lived like a fool. You were taken as an idiot. And that's what right now is happening. We, the Democrats, anybody who's voting Democrat, they're being useful idiots right now, because you must be able to see with your own eyes, right? When these people speak at the DNC, and if you can't look out of the window and see what's going on and all the crime, in Chicago, and you still accept that, then you're just an idiot. I don't know what else to say.
Rebecca Koffler, writer, former DIA intelligence officer. She's also the author of Putin's Playbook and the forthcoming American Bolsheviks, the Persecution of Donald Trump and the Sovietization of America. Rebecca Koffler, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, we'll go over that K through 12 report card Mike Scott's been referencing in his newscast this morning with our friend Ted Dabrowski, president of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
7:34 this morning. Palestinian officials say Israeli airstrikes overnight across the Gaza Strip have killed at least 18. Israel says it tries to avoid harming civilians and accuses Hamas terrorists of putting them in danger by fighting in residential areas. Ukraine's president says nighttime Russian drone and missile attacks have left at least 4 dead, one day after another heavy barrage pounded the country. The Racine, Wisconsin soldier who jumped the border into North Korea has agreed to a plea deal. Prosecutors for the Army say Travis King will plead guilty to 5 of the 14 charges against him. The Kamala Harris campaign is asking for a rule change in an upcoming presidential debate. We get details from Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House.
The same campaign leadership team that wrote these rules for Biden is now pushing to change them for Harris. This is how they frame it. Quote, the vice president is ready to deal with Trump's constant lies and interruptions in real time. Trump should stop hiding behind the mute button. But back in May, they called for muted mics for the benefit of the American voters. Harris still has not explained her border plan. On foreign policy, Democrats say she will break from Biden on key issues like Israel, but asked for specifics, they repeated Biden's lines. Even the plans that Harris has explained have been quietly redlined by her allies.
Children could get a cognitive boost from just 10 seconds of light exercise. Brand new study coming out of Japan this morning that found that even light activity can boost blood flow to the prefrontal cortex of the brain. It's the part that helps us pay attention and make decisions. Dangerously hot weather continues to drape the Chicago area. Mid-90s today, heat index values as high as 115. According to the Illinois Board of Education's most recent Illinois report card, 27% of Illinois public school students in grades K through 12 are meeting grade level standards in math. Mariana Barragan-Torres is a research specialist at the University of Illinois.
Their scores have been decreasing consistently since the beginning of the pandemic, with no recovery across either subject.
And enrollment in Illinois public schools has declined each of the last 8 years, and chronic absenteeism rates have risen dramatically. A recent fire in the parking lot of a Bloomington electric vehicle plant is raising questions about EV safety. The fire destroyed nearly 60 Rivian EVs waiting to be shipped to customers. Auto analyst Alan Baum says expectations that the big three automakers were going to mass produce affordable EVs never materialized, and this is another black eye for the industry.
That kind of fell short. There have been some significant problems with both the automakers and some of their suppliers, and that has led to higher costs and therefore higher prices, which of course led to declines in consumer uptake.
There are only 111,000 EVs registered in Illinois. Here's a sad story. More Red Lobsters are closing. The seafood chain restaurants announcing the company is rejecting leases of an additional 23 locations by this Saturday. That includes locations in Bourbonnais, Geneva, Peoria, and Champaign. Cubs beat the Pirates 18-8. White Sox lost to the Tigers 6-3. We'll watch the waiver wire as the Bears slice their roster to 53 by 3 p.m. today. The news, a service of almostfreeteeth.com. If you have Blue Cross, Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify, almostfreeteeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees Harris stealing ideas.
Because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
Eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
What's going to be next? She going to start wearing a red MAGA hat? We're witnessing one of the greatest con jobs in the history of the United States.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. At the Republican National Convention in 1980, Ronald Reagan set up his peace through strength doctrine, stating, "We know only too well that war comes not when the forces of freedom are strong, but when they are weak. It is then that tyrants are tempted." Reagan backed up his doctrine with action, and his initiatives led to the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War in less than a decade. Just 40 years later, Reagan's lessons have been abandoned. 3 years ago, America woke up to the news that 13 service members were killed in a suicide bombing during the disastrous, uncoordinated withdrawal from Afghanistan. Hundreds of Afghanis were killed, and America left countless friends behind to be hunted by the Taliban. Numerous foreign policy analysts believe that debacle showed the ineptness and weakness of the Biden administration and its top military leadership. And a weak America gave Putin a green light to invade Ukraine and Iran to meddle in the Middle East. Kamala Harris wants you to think she has our military's back. She wants you to believe she can hold her own against tough, opportunistic leaders in Russia, China, and Iran. No one should believe her based on her time as VP. This year's defense budget cut military spending based on inflation, making it the smallest in modern history, and Americans will spend more on the interest cost of our national debt than on defense. The number of ships in service in the Navy is shrinking. Army divisions are hollowed out, and all services face recruiting shortages, in part due to the woke policies accelerated by Biden and Harris. This year, if Americans want to thank the U.S. military members for their service, they need to be national security voters in November. I'm Jeannie Ives. To learn more, listen to my radio show on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
Can you read this email for me?
Of course.
Jeez, I wish they could do something for your eyesight.
Ugh, me too. But you heard what they said. There's nothing we can do.
When vision loss can't be corrected with glasses or surgery, and hope seems lost, turn to Spectrios Institute for Low Vision. Spectrios doctors specialize in the treatment of vision loss related to eye diseases, such as macular degeneration, glaucoma, and diabetic retinopathy. There is hope, supported by science with personalized rehabilitation plans, occupational therapies, and access technology at Spectrios. Talk to a patient service manager. They'll walk you through the program. Spectrios takes BCBS and Medicare insurance. They also have grants for qualifying patients and offer a Seeing is Believing children's outreach program. Go to spectrios.org, located in Wheaton in a building that says it all, the House of Hope. That's spectrios.org. Spectrios Institute, the head, heart, and eyes approach to better vision. Remember to keep Spectrios Institute, a 501c, in your estate or legacy planning.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
7:42 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. 67th and Cass in Darien. Report of an accident this morning. Delays on the South Shore line westbound from Millennium Station. You've got 20-minute delays due to mechanical trouble there this morning. Probably heat related. I-80 solid traffic eastbound, Hobart into Larkin. The Reagan I-88 delays eastbound between Cermak and the Tri-State this morning. The Tri-State itself jamming up northbound from the Stevenson, between the Stevenson and the Hinsdale Oasis. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny, very hot. There could be a strong afternoon thunderstorm, high 97. Warm, humid, with a strong thunderstorm possible overnight, low 73. 79 right now. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when
Top of the morning,
moving
Dan
out.
and Amy. As Mike Scott's been reporting, the grades are in. The Illinois State Board of Education's most recent Illinois report card. The Illinois State Board of Education, to repeat. 27% of Illinois' K through 12 kids are meeting grade level in math, 35% meeting grade level in English.
Are we supposed to celebrate that?
Yeah.
27 math, 35% English?
Mm-hmm. It's not bad. So let's see if I could do the math. I think I'm at grade level. So approximately 3 of 4 kids are failing to meet grade level standards in math, and approximately 2 in 3 kids are failing to meet grade level in English. And that's going to work out well for them and for the systems. But my school's great. Love my school district. It's just happening in Chicago. No, it's not. You can't get these numbers if it's just happening in Chicago. Oh, Chicago and some of the poor communities. Nope. You still can't get those numbers. Keep going. Also this, hey, anybody seen my kids? Anybody seen the kids? What happened to all the kids that used to go to this school? Chronic absenteeism rate of 28%. That's up from 16% pre-COVID. So 28%. So let's round down to be generous. That's 1 in 4 in a system of like 2 million kids. That's a lot of kids that aren't going to school. And I guess, based on these numbers, what's the point anyway? Keep up appearances? Ted Dabrowski, President of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related, joins us. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
So what's happened? Have we defunded the schools? We need to spend more money? Is that what the problem is?
Yeah, it's always more money. I was just looking as you were talking at the amount of money that's going into CPS. We all know the 30,000 number, 30,000 per student, but in 2017 it was just 17,000. So you're talking about a 75% increase in just a few years, and nobody's going to school. The reading results are about the same. The math results are worse. I guess you couldn't spell a worse disaster on something that we spend so much money on that in theory is so important to the unions and the teachers, and it's just a disaster.
And the suburbs, I know you guys, at WirePoints, you guys did the report card for every school district, and people were shocked. I remember, I could keep referencing them, and now it's a good time to re-reference them. Shocked that, the school districts, the best schools, and say, oh, great government schools in New Trier, and Barrington, and so forth, Naperville. And it turns out they're pulling up the average, but you have 1 in 3, 1 in 4 kids in the best high schools, in the so-called best high schools in the state, places like New Trier and Barrington and Naperville and Glenbard, where a quarter to a third to half of the students there are not at grade level in reading or math either.
Yeah, I still remember. I think I told this story, but we just put out the numbers last year, and 43% of kids in Arlington Heights, or this District 214, it was 43% can read at grade level. And I got a phone call from somebody in the movement, somebody who's on our side, and said, Ted, you're wrong. That's just bad data. And I felt bad because I thought I made a mistake or something. So I looked at the data, and no, it's 43%. And this dad had thought that this school had been just, like the cream of the cream, and this is the best place, to send your kids. And, the reality is across the state, I'm not talking about in many, many places. You're talking about Wheaton, you're talking about a lot of places where, it is, 4 out of 10, 5, maybe 5 out of 10 if it's a good. We think of 5 out of 10, half of our kids reading at grade level is suddenly good these days. And it's not until you remember that half of them can't read at grade level. So it's a horrible path. Kids aren't going to school, but the one stat that we didn't talk about is also teachers aren't showing up for school either. That's gotten really bad as well. And so,
well, if kids aren't there, why should the teachers show up? What's the point?
Yeah, well, and I tell you, this is I don't know how it happens, right? But we're seeing this boom in school choice across the country. Red states in particular. It's just universal school choice is starting to dominate every type of school choice program out there, and we're surrounded by them now in Illinois. So we're surrounded by a lot of good things. God knows when the pressure finally comes on to change here. But the good news is there's something out there for us to do one day. It's not happening now under Pritzker, but one day we can do it.
What happens to the rest? You have the 43% who are reading at grade level. What happens to the rest? Do they just pass them no matter what?
Yeah, Amy, that's the big thing, right? So in the third grade, that's the key year. That's the year that if you can't read in third grade, then you're in big trouble in fifth and sixth because you just can't do the other subjects. And so Florida passed, and then Mississippi did too. They've had this miracle there. They said we're not going to pass kids to the fourth grade if they can't read in the third, and that's a big deal because parents don't like that. Teachers are embarrassed that they can't move their kids to the next grade. But it's been a big deal. But here in Illinois, it doesn't matter. You take Peoria, you take Decatur, you take Rockford. 5%, 7% of kids can read in the third grade. And you know what? Move them along anyway. It doesn't matter, and nobody cares. And that's what's so pathetic about what's going on here.
Well, I mean, is it a big deal? Maybe the standards are too high. They can read, they just can't read at grade level, and maybe that's not such a big deal. Maybe it's too exacting, and we should, we should rethink how we measure these things because they could be, like Stacey Davis Gates makes the point, the way we're measuring could be a vestige of white supremacy.
It's just racist. No, yeah, I tell you what's fascinating is a lot of states have gotten rid of standards, especially for graduation. It used to be that you had to prove you could graduate before you get a diploma. Now most states have just wiped that out. There's very few states now that require some kind of testing. But I'll tell you that where I get fired up from is as I look at this data. There are a few districts in the state, and I've talked about them. They're down in the in the southwest corner down there by East St. Louis, farming towns, and you'll find there communities that spend $8,000, $9,000 a student, and you'll have 80% of kids reading there. So they don't have any money. They figure out how to do it. They all get together. They work hard. They compete, and they have 80% of kids reading at grade level with little money. And what it tells you is that when the community comes together, when parents and the schools come together and work together and want their kids to read, they can do it. It's not some mystery. It's not some hard test.
Well,
where they get together and do it.
Well, right. And so the absenteeism rate, 28% system-wide this year, according to the Illinois State Board of Education. In CPS, it's 40% chronic absenteeism. So, I mean, you have a school district that's shrinking to begin with. Maybe there's, I don't know what, maybe 225,000 kids left in CPS. And 40% of them aren't showing up on a routine basis, according to the Illinois State Board of Education. And they're not going to, because you can spend $30,000 per kid, you can spend $50,000 per kid, you can spend whatever number you want. There's no adult supervision at home or in school.
No, and that's right. It's nobody seems to care. There's a lot to be said about the parents' obligations, parents' role, and we know we have a big social problem there, no doubt about that. And that in itself is one topic. But I do try to separate the topics because, how we talk about parents and what their role is one thing. The other part, though, is when we spend $30,000 a student to educate our kids and they don't do anything about it, the teachers don't show up for class, CPS just moves them along. That's another thing, and that's the part that we need to hold them accountable for. They're happy to take the money. They're happy to strike. They're happy to do whatever they need to do to get their end of the deal, but they don't really care about the other end of the deal, and that's educating kids. It's why most kids, and especially when you talk about the minority kids, they can't read and they can't do math. Most of them, the overwhelming amount of them can't.
And when we look around the country, I mean, they always cry poor because they play this game of just looking on what the state financing of K through 12 education is rather than the total, which includes the primary source for most school districts, of course, property taxes. So, when you include that, we've always been in the top 10 in spending per pupil. When you include all the funding sources, including property taxes, I assume we still are. And where do we fall in terms of the proficiency rates in reading and math?
We fall so we fall in the middle in proficiency. So we're not that different. We probably have a bit more dispersion around the mean because you got the North Shore that does really well, and then you got the Peorias and the Decaturs that do really poorly. But we're kind of middling. But when it comes to spending, we spend by far the most in the Midwest. I mean, we dominate the 14 states in the Midwest in spending, and we're typically around 10th, 9th, 10th overall nationally on when you take state, local, and federal. So, I'll tell you this: we spend about $7,000 more per student than Florida does, and they do about the same as we do.
Mm-hmm. And it's an indictment of government. And then the fact that that's the case, I mean, in terms of proficiency rates, that's an indictment of K through 12 government schools generally, nationally, and it speaks to some of these other endemic problems we have with the skill levels of young people and the prospects for young people in the global digital world in which we live.
Well, yeah, and there's two things, right? One is the national failure of across the board of how we teach kids, what we demand of kids, merit, excellence, all that. That's one. But then two is the Illinois is special in that it extracts a ton more money to get the same results as the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And Illinois is really good at that. It's also about $7,000 more per student than Indiana, and they do about the same or maybe slightly better than we do. So, when you think about if you were to give back a tax break of everybody with $7,000 per student back to the public, it'd be a massive tax cut for people, and we'd have the same results, maybe even better.
Ted Dabrowski, president of wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Suburban Welding and Steel is your local welding, fabricating, and repair shop where service and quality is number one. Their dedicated team of experts can repair a job on site or in their shop located in Franklin Park. They have the machinery needed to get your project completed with the craftsmanship and precision so you can get back to business. Suburban Welding and Steel Services, more than just the manufacturing industry. They also service the food industry, heavy equipment, trucking, airports, and railroads. Walk-ins are also welcome, so if you need it welded, repaired, fabricated, or modified, Suburban Welding and Steel will do the laser cutting, machining, forming, and plate rolling for you. Or they have the materials you need in stock and ready for the purchase. And if you know a hardworking person looking for a career in the trade, Suburban Welding and Steel is looking to add to their team of experts. Visit suburbanweldingandsteel.com to see the full story on what they can do for you. suburbanweldingandsteel.com.
All right, think about it. If you cut your hand, eventually it heals. So you should use your own body's healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get you real lasting pain relief. Hey, it's Amy Jacobson here, and I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine. So if you're tired of arthritic pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder, go to QC Kinetics. Everybody's talking about regenerative medicine. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain, without drugs or surgery or downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are experts in these amazing treatments, and they are led by National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup from right here in the Chicago area. He's a former orthopedic surgeon for 3 decades, so he knows what he's talking about. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough using cellular therapies. They've got tens of thousands of satisfied patients, and the consultation is completely free. What are you waiting for? Call now to get lasting joint pain relief with help from QC Kinetics. Call for that free consultation today. New locations in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Saturday appointments available. The number to call is 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here with urgent news. The world's central banks are making unprecedented moves, and it's time to pay attention. In 2022 and 2023, they bought more gold than ever before. And now in 2024, the trend is accelerating. Why? Because central banks have lost faith in the dollar, and in these uncertain times, gold is the ultimate safe haven. If you too are worried about the dollar, I urge you to take similar action by diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold with my trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word HEDGE to 989898. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantage status. So text HEDGE to 989898. That's HEDGE to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Picking up a discussion we were having pre-COVID, and now it's been exacerbated exponentially. Smartphones in the school. Our old friend Dr. Marty Makari from COVID has an op-ed we'll discuss at 8:08.
And today we're going to have humid, hot conditions, a high of 97 degrees. It's 8 a.m. WIND Chicago.
Mike's on or Mike's off. Gianna Gelosi, Fox News. The Trump and Harris campaigns clashing over the debate rules as the candidates head to key battleground states this week.
The standoff involves mics. It was President Biden's team who proposed muting mics when a candidate isn't speaking for the debate back in June. Now, Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign wants to reverse that rule. Former President Trump's campaign says it's Harris who can't stay on message. Trump, though, is floating the possibility of not showing up to the ABC debate on September 10th at all, as he criticizes the host network. Harris and her running mate Tim Walz will kick off a bus tour in Georgia tomorrow. Trump is heading to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania later this week.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. Now the debate is scheduled for September 10th on ABC. Real Clear Politics polling averages show the vice president with a slim 1.5-point lead over the former president. But former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard was once a rising star of the Democratic Party, but now she's on the Trump train, endorsing the former president yesterday.
As a service member, as a veteran, it's a very clear choice. I love our country. I cherish peace and freedom, and I'm supporting Donald Trump in this election.
Gabbard on Fox's The Ingram Angle. Fox's Peter Ducey has more from the White House.
Tulsi Gabbard, she had the sharpest lines of attack against then Senator Harris on the debate stages in 2020. She is now helping Donald Trump prepare for his debate with Harris behind the scenes, and she is officially joining his effort to beat her. The Harris campaign is showing their hand in terms of priorities, visiting just one battleground state this week, but for 2 days. Georgia. Trump has Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania ahead before the weekend. President Biden has been joking before he went on vacation that he will campaign for or against Harris, whatever she thinks would help. It seems that the calculation, at least for now, has been made that he should just stay out of it.
That's Fox's Peter Ducey. America's listening to Fox News.
8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Dangerous hot weather continues to drape the Chicago area. Temps in the mid-90s, heat index values as high as 115, and excessive heat warning in effect. Many schools, including CPS, managing the heat with modified schedules. CPS CEO Pedro Martinez says it's about ComEd keeping the power on.
Much our systems, it's really ComEd. So if we have any power issues, that's usually when we struggle. And so that's what we're going to be monitoring. But we feel fairly confident about how we're going to handle our buildings. So again, we're just going to be watching to make sure there's no power issues.
In other news, we're following an off-duty Chicago police officer is accused of attacking his fellow officer girlfriend during an alcohol-fueled incident last week. Officer Francisco Galvan faces misdemeanor counts of domestic battery and driving under the influence. The victim was sitting in a police vehicle wearing her full uniform. Galvan has been relieved of his policing powers. The FBI searching for a man who robbed 2 suburban banks last week, an Old National Bank on Dixie Highway in Chicago Heights. Same man robbed a Fifth Third Bank in Oak Forest the same day. Anyone with information is asked to call the FBI. And a trial is underway for a man accused of killing an Illinois child welfare worker at a home just outside of Springfield. Benjamin Reed is charged with the murder of Deidre Silas in January of 2022. Authorities say he stabbed Silas to death while she was checking in on 6 children in the home. Cubs beat the Pirates 18-8. White Sox lost to the Tigers 6-3, and it's cut-down day at Hallis Hall for the Bears. They need to get to their roster deadline at 3 of 53 players. The news, a service of Blue Stars Security. Visit online to schedule a free security consultation at bluestarsecurityllc.com. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Eli Lilly is selling its popular weight loss drug Zepbound at a lower price. The lower cost option, which is about half the price of the original for certain doses, is packaged in glass vials, which are easier to produce, and not in the standard injection pen devices. With the new vials, patients will have to use a syringe to draw out their dose and then inject themselves. The pharmaceutical giant calling this an effort to get the medicine in the hands of more people and ease supply constraints. It would be a more affordable option for people whose insurance doesn't cover anti-obesity drugs. And some analysts are interpreting an uptick in sausage demand as a sign consumers are tightening their belts as they continue grappling with high prices. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
8:05 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Join John Anthony, host of Black and Right, for a cruise on Lake Michigan on Saturday, September 21st. Come aboard the luxury yacht Free Spirit for a fun afternoon with fellow AM 560 listeners. Enjoy great food and beverages and be a part of the live broadcast of Black and Right with John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cruise. That's 560theanswer.com/cruise. Sponsored in part by Opum Tax Advocates and attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
In 2012, the Journal of Cognition and Emotion published a study that showed that we make a decision to trust a person within 100 milliseconds of seeing their face. Making a good first impression has never been more important, and you can make that positive impression with a professional headshot from Tom Killoran Photography. Whether you're a job seeker trying to land your next position, or you're looking to build your business by connecting with prospective clients and customers, you need a high-quality headshot to use with your resume, portfolio, website, or other marketing materials. The experts at Tom Killoran Photography can work with you to capture the exact look you need for your professional presentation. Tom Killoran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see a sample of their work, just visit KilloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN Photography.com, or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Killoran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
This is Seth Leibson for Townhall.com. During the 2020 riots, many were surprised to see the demand of the BLM movement to, quote, disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure, close quote. To those who understood Marxism and that the BLM movement was a Marxist organization, it made all the sense in the world. Marx, in his Communist Manifesto and elsewhere, made it clear the traditional family stood in the way of the revolution. The assault continues, including a result that will bode terribly for our future. Today, America has its lowest fertility rate on record, far below the replacement rate, and childlessness is rising. How did we get here? There are many causes, including record low church attendance and marriage. There is also the ongoing shaming of boys and manliness, oft described as toxic masculinity. And beyond shaming, the culture says boys can just as easily become girls and vice versa. C.S. Lewis was right. You can't make men without chests. You cannot bid geldings be fruitful. We must reverse this Marxist attack on religion and nature, the very building blocks of our society.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
NYPD officer Jonathan Diller's tragic story made national headlines this year. Now, Jonathan was shot and killed by a career criminal during a traffic stop. Jonathan, who's just 31 years old, leaves behind his wife Stephanie and one-year-old son Ryan. Now, nothing will ever replace the loss of a husband and a father, but the Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to pay off the mortgage on the Diller family's home. Please commit to $11 a month. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
It's 8:09. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and this update is service of Quick Delivery Service. Ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. Darien, 67th and Cass, an accident. Itasca, Irving Park and Parkside, an accident. Schaumburg, cleaning up an accident. Higgins, right at just east of Route 53. You've got stop-and-go traffic on the Jane Addams I-90 eastbound between Meacham and Route 53. The Tri-State disabled vehicle left lane block northbound on 294 between St. Charles to right past the Grand Avenue curve. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Partly sunny, some flash flooding this afternoon from a strong thunderstorm, a high 97. Partly cloudy, warm, strong thunderstorm late tonight, low 73. Variable cloudiness for tomorrow, and the high at 86. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
We're up to 80 degrees. Next news, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Revisiting a conversation we dropped. Sort of dropped. Not really, but we were talking about this globally in advance of COVID. And then COVID came and the lockdowns came, and it was okay for all the kids to be isolated on social media and tethered to their phones.
Yeah, after we had been encouraging them for months, if not years, to get off your phones, go outside, put it down, go interact with people.
So now things are materially worse in terms of academic achievement as well as intellectual development, mental health conditions. Marty Makary, the doc from Johns Hopkins, we had on the show routinely to talk about some of the absurd policies of the COVIDians, absurd, counterproductive, disastrous, destructive. America's children are hurting. Behind in school after pandemic closures, many children are now struggling with another major barrier to learning, smartphone addiction. 2/3 of American students say they're distracted by digital devices during class. More than half of students are distracted by devices of other students, what he calls sort of a secondhand smoke effect. Complex problem, but the solution is embarrassingly simple. Ban phones in America's schoolrooms.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us on that very same line.
The average teenager receives 273 cell phone notifications per day.
What?
According to a 2023 Common Sense Media report. Limitless, Makary goes on to say, limitless apps entice children with the promise of the next dopamine surge, a predatory business model. While numerous studies have shown the negative psychological impact of these devices on developing brains, they can also take a physical toll on the body. The constant checking, scrolling, swiping that children succumb to increases cortisol, stress hormone levels, increases blood pressure, worsens sleep quality, I should say. And while they're not the sole driver of the child mental health deterioration, they're playing a major role. 44% of teenagers say their cell phones make them anxious, according to a Pew Research study. Makary writes, that's probably because apps can make children feel ugly, left out, and lonely. Addictions isolate people, and phone addiction is no exception. Yeah.
Are you addicted to your phone? I think you used to be. When it first came out, you would talk to people and still look at your phone a little bit. I don't think you do that much anymore. Oh.
No, I don't. No, I mean, I use it. I check it a lot, I suppose.
I think it's a major distraction to school. I mean, I've watched kids go
I'm not
from
13 either, though.
Well, also, I've watched kids go from having it forced in your locker. Like, you can bring a cell phone to school, but you have to put it in your locker. And then it came, well, now you can have it for lunch. And then that leaked into gym. And then that leaked into the classroom.
So what's happening at schools in and around Illinois, especially these shockingly bad schools that parents, as we were talking with Ted Dabrowski, are finding out how bad their schools are when the reading and math proficiency scores come in. So what are your schools doing with respect to cell phone usage? Has there been a revisiting of this post-COVID lockdowns?
312-642-5600. You could call us or text us.
Because the lockdowns may be coming again, and several towns in Massachusetts are locking down over Eastern equine encephalitis, a mosquito-borne disease that can be deadly to humans. Got to lock it down.
Yeah. People are pushing back, but what is it? 6 o'clock curfew, but it's going to be changed to 5 o'clock curfew.
It's voluntary, whatever. And the other thing, too, is we could have CPS should be on lockdown right now. Not that it matters since nobody's showing up. But they should be on lockdown right now. We had a super spreader event last week called the DNC.
Oh, yeah.
COVID-19 outbreak at the DNC. Multiple attendees test positive. As a congregate setting, everybody should have been wearing masks. Kamala Harris's staffers have to keep their jabs, keep updated with their jabs. Why not get the mask on? Out of an abundance of caution.
If it saves one life.
In solidarity with Tony Fauci, who has got the West Nile.
Right. He was hospitalized, too. I'm surprised, We're not locking down because of that, but apparently they are starting with curfews in Massachusetts because of mosquitoes.
40% of kids will have a mental health condition by the time they're 18. This is sort of what RFK Jr. was talking about a bit on Friday when he announced his suspension of his campaign and the endorsement of Trump. 40% of kids with a mental health condition. I mean, some of these are dubious, but still. 57% of U.S. girls today say they feel sad or hopeless, according to a CDC report. That's a doubling since 2011. So, I mean, there is something afoot. I don't know that it's a singular cause, but it's pretty clear. I mean, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this obsession with smartphones and social media has not been particularly productive, not been helpful. Jonathan Haidt, psychologist, NYU, of course, who has studied the issue extensively, he's also called for, a while back, he called for a ban on smartphones. He pointed out that heavy phone or social media use may also have a cumulative, enduring, and deleterious effect on adolescents' ability to focus and apply themselves. Yeah, no kidding. 7 in 10 teachers say that cell phone distraction is a major problem in the classroom, according to Pew Research studies. So, I mean, if this is so obvious and overwhelming, then why isn't everybody just taking the phones away while you're in the class?
Because kids have rights.
They do?
Well, I mean,
They have a
no
right
law
to
in place.
they have a right to a cell phone?
Well, sometimes they use it for school, for looking things up, believe it or not. But, I mean, until they pass a law that bans cell phones from school, or you have to put your cell phone up on the wall.
You don't have to pass a law. You have to gain control of your schools.
Right, okay. A rule, not a law.
So, well, that's the point. So why aren't principals and teachers, why aren't the teachers union beating the drum for a ban on smartphones in the classroom? Supposedly 7 in 10 teachers say it's a distraction. So put them away. Well, we'll take them away, actually. You're going to leave them at home or leave them in your locker or you leave them at the front of the room and you can pick them up after class. What's so complicated about that? If it's such a problem and the evidence is overwhelming, why isn't it happening? This is always what's interesting to me.
Right.
Everybody
staring you right in the face and you don't do it.
Everybody recognizes what it is, but nobody change. Well, a lot of people don't change, so that means somebody's interests are being served. Well, whose? Pharma? Deborah in Arlington Heights, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Back during COVID, they were shaming people for even going outside and saying that you had to wear a mask and social distance. I have pictures of the playground near our neighborhood that had police tape around it that kids were not allowed to go to. Now, fast forward to today, I go by a bus stop every day, and the kids are probably junior high age. Every one of the 8 to 10 kids that are at this bus stop are on their cell phones. Nobody is talking to each other. They're all on their cell phones. And this is just going to ruin an entire generation if we keep this up at this pace.
Thanks for the call, Deborah.
I noticed it when I dropped Eli off at Iowa, not this year, but last year. Everybody was at Buffalo Wild Wings. And, Dan, there are some people sitting alone, some people sitting with 2 or 3 friends or 5 friends. Nobody was talking to anybody. They were all just staring at their phones.
Macari points out St. Anthony's Middle School in Minnesota, students are now required to put their cell phones in their lockers between 8 a.m. and 2:45. Yeah, what a novel concept. Again, I don't understand why this is complicated. He also points out he's an advisor now to Youngkin in Virginia. Youngkin signed an executive order to create phone-free education in the state's government schools. Hochul in New York has introduced a similar ban, as have politicians in South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana that all have some types of restrictions on devices in schools. So, I mean, it can be statewide, but you don't need to wait for the state to act. You can just take control of your school or your school district if you had leadership that was so inclined to do so, right? Tom in Oswego.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. You're right, Dan. It's leadership. As long as the leaders keep getting paid what they get paid and their pensions, they don't care about the kids. And as far as, you're right, as far as the phones, just don't allow them in school. Dan, I've got 3 older children, and by older, I mean some of them in their 30s. And the phone has been such a distraction in their lives. And one's an attorney, and he's a very educated guy. But it has become sort of a pacifier. When you're feeling down, scroll something. And I run a small business. Even for me, it's becoming a distraction with texting, emails, and spams. all day. I go home, I'm burned out, and I have to put my phone in my office and just ignore it intentionally. It's a tough problem.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Rob in Ukrainian Village.
Hey, good morning. So my son's 12, started middle school this year, and we're now in Lake Zurich School District. But in his school, they're required to check their phones in front of the classroom. My son doesn't have a phone at all, let alone a smartphone. We've told him that when he's old enough to need one, he'll have a dumb phone. But they go to lunch every day, and that's one of the times when they're allowed to have their phones. And he said that lunch stinks every day because no one talks to one another because they all just stare at their phones all day.
But wait, in class you're saying they have to check their phone, so they have to discard them. They have to put them away. You're saying.
Yeah, there's like a sleeve up at the front of the classroom where they all have to kind of check it. But they lose that social aspect at lunch where, they should be hanging out and letting off steam and talking about their days or whatever, you did when you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old.
Right, talking about free market economists. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I'm old enough to remember when if a pager or a cell phone went off in the classroom, you were Saturday schooled or detentions because you were rumored to be a drug dealer. So I don't know. We all grew up and it worked out for us. Bring that back.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, I got in trouble when I had my brick phone out during history class. Yeah, I was.
You're one of the OGs.
I was trading. That was my Gordon Gekko phase at school. Yeah. Bill in Waukegan.
Yeah, hey, good morning, guys. Just wanted to say that I worked at a government facility down in Miami for 4 years, and I tell you, the first thing you had to do after you walked through security was put your phone up into a locker, and that was it. And if they caught you in a meeting or anything with the cell phone going off, you went to go see a 3-star general, and we never saw you again. That's what they should do for these kids. It's just take them away, and then just kick them out of school if they don't abide by the rules. Like you said, I think, or like other callers said, it's become more of a distraction than anything, and we're going to be paying the price in the long term. Thanks for taking my call. I love you guys.
Thanks for the call, Bill.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Do you have jewelry with sentimental value that needs repairing? Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. I'm a customer of family-owned Roland's Jewelers in downtown Libertyville because it's a place I trust. Their in-house master jeweler does impeccable work, and jewelry comes back repaired in perfect condition and looks the same as the day you bought it. It's a great feeling. Roland's also specializes in custom design. They'll work with you every step of the way to make your dream jewelry idea come to life. The Roland's family is expertly trained to give you outstanding customer service, earning 5-star Google ratings. Now that's impressive. Visit Roland's Jewelers' beautiful showroom in downtown Libertyville for all of your jewelry needs. Visit RolandsJewelers.com. That's ROLLANDS Jewelers.com, or call or text them at 847-918-7300. 847-918-7300. Roland's Jewelers, a family-owned jeweler you can trust.
Honey, have you seen our roof after that storm last night? I think we need to call someone.
Don't worry, we got the shingle company on speed dial.
But I keep hearing in the news recently how dangerous sloped roofs can be. Our home in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point.
Well, the shingle company isn't afraid of any sloped roofs. Their safety record is spotless, their warranty unmatched, and they offer a low-price apples-to-apples guarantee. Besides, it costs us nothing to get a quote.
The Shingle Company, your local roofing experts who handle even the steepest of slopes with ease. Whether it's residential or commercial roofing, they've got you covered. With 3 generations of building experience, they're also experts in siding, gutters, windows, and more.
I am so glad we called them, and I can't believe our insurance covered practically the whole project.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Plus, I love that they're proud supporters of AM 560.
Visit the Shingle Company today at shingleco.com. Again, that's shingleco.com.
Rick Borick, host of Unleash Your Wealth, talks about the importance of tax planning in retirement.
A qualified financial planner can take you through all the steps to show you every single legal way you can use to reduce and minimize your state income taxes across the board so that, again, you keep more of your money and your family keeps more of your money.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and our new time at 2 p.m. here on AM 560, The Answer.
Right now, Bettenhausen has 0% on new Jeeps. Hurry in! It's the Labor Day sales event at Bettenhausen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Now open on 159th Street in Lockport. Bettenhausen has 0% financing available on new Jeep Cherokees, new Jeep Wranglers, or new Jeep Compasses. Hurry into Bettenhausen in Lockport. Your best Jeep buying experience starts now at Bettenhausen. Choose from over 700 new vehicles. Showroom open 24/7 at cdjroflockport.com.
I'm worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there every day this week, helping her navigate the stairs, cooking meals, reminding her to take her medicine. I'm always nervous when I leave.
You know what? I admire you for taking care of Mom. But your family needs you too. And what if she slips and falls? A friend recommended the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. They service Cook, DuPage, Kane, and Will counties. They guarantee compatibility and they'll conduct a free safety assessment of her home. Plus, they'll provide as little or as much care as Mom needs.
Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, offering both hourly and live-in care. Schedule a free assessment today by calling 331-281-0728. That's 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Are you a business owner with a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, and a plan for growth, but you just need the right bank? Hi, Mike Gallagher here, letting you know that Signature Bank is all about going the distance for commercial banking customers. It's what Signature Bank does every day. Their team understands that accessibility is key to their culture. In times like these, you want a bank that is there for you to weather the bad times and capitalize on the good. And with Signature Bank by your side, you can't go wrong. It's a true partnership. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. I believe in what they have to offer, from innovative tech and customized solutions to help your business grow and thrive. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, text from 773 about the topic we were discussing, taking smartphones away from the kids in the classroom. They banned Heelys, squirt gun pens, and fruit-smelling markers. Big cell phone must be too big. What's a Heelys? Is it like a cheap scotch or something?
No, it's the tennis shoes that had the wheels built into the heels.
Oh,
and you
that's
could
right. I remember.
travel around on the tile really easily.
Oh. No, interesting.
Those are the cool kid shoes.
Those are
I never
banned?
had a pair.
Yeah, it marked up the floors,
kind of
and some kids
hazard,
wiped
too.
out a little bit.
Squirt gun pens, I understand. Zero tolerance or anything like that. Steve, Northwest Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. Hey, my grandsons go to school in Wisconsin. They're 12 and 13. They are not allowed to bring cell phones into the school. They're just banned. You can't have them.
So do we lose Steve?
And my home is a cell phone free home also. But the flip side of that is the one kid is extremely knowledgeable. He's got like a thirst for knowledge that's unquenchable. and he uses that cell phone. I mean, he wanted to be a DNA scientist until he was about 9. Now he's studying history, and he's all consumed with World War II and the Holocaust and stuff like that. So the cell phone can be a very useful tool in the appropriate setting. But school, I think, is not one of them.
Right.
This is a great
Thanks for the call,
text
Steve.
message. Screw the phones. I graduated in 04 and couldn't wear a cutoff shirt. Now these girls wear underwear to school. As a father, it's disgusting. It pees me off.
Well, so you got to go where they got the uniforms.
Yes. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk to the Wall Street Journal's deputy editor. He is Dan Henninger. We'll get his take on where the presidential race stands, what we can expect from that September 10th debate, the impact of RFK, the impact of Zuckerberg not being a censor for the G, all of that and more at 8:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
8:31, 81 degrees. Israel this morning has said its forces have rescued a hostage held by Hamas terrorists. The rescue happened as part of what officials describe as a complex operation in southern Gaza. The 52-year-old man is said to be in stable condition. Hamas is believed to be holding still more than 100 hostages after the October 7 attacks on Israel. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, in a letter Monday to the House Judiciary Committee, admitted that the Biden administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee, a chairman, Jim Jordan, says Zuckerberg in his letter says he regrets complying with certain demands. Federal judge in Texas blocking a program that would give legal status to illegal immigrants married to American citizens. The Biden administration plan began earlier this month, would have affected around 500,000 immigrants in the country without legal status. SpaceX delaying a highly anticipated launch aimed at creating a new generation of spaceflight. Today's scheduled liftoff of Polaris is now delayed by a day for an additional pre-launch check related to a helium leak. Kate Fisher has more on what's expected when the mission does finally get underway.
2 astronauts on SpaceX's Polaris Dawn mission are expected to leave the capsule in Earth's orbit, making it the first major test of the company's new spacesuits.
They'll conduct the first ever commercial spacewalk wearing the newly designed spacesuits. The investigation continues into a cyber attack that began disrupting services at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, more casually known as SeaTac, over the weekend. The effect and exact nature of the cyber attack is not clear. Efforts continue to restore computer systems at the airport. The big problem, luggage handling systems that are down. Dangerously hot weather continues to strike the Chicago area, northwest Indiana, with an excessive heat warning. Many schools, including CPS, are managing the heat with modified schedules. An off-duty Chicago police officer is accused of attacking his fellow officer girlfriend during an alcohol-fueled incident last week. Officer Francisco Galvan faces misdemeanor counts of domestic battery and DUI. He's been relieved of his police powers. Chicago sports, Cubs broke out the big bats in an 18-8 win over the Pirates at PNC Park. Dansby Swanson, a grand slam. Cubs stole 8 bases in that game. White Sox lost to the Tigers 6-3. The Bears waived 9 players yesterday and need to get their roster down to 53 by 3 p.m. today. The news, a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average and get that smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify. AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trucking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
Suburban Welding and Steel is your local welding, fabricating, and repair shop where service and quality is number one. Their dedicated team of experts can repair a job on-site or in their shop located in Franklin Park. They have the machinery needed to get your project completed with the craftsmanship and precision so you can get back to business. Suburban Welding and Steel services more than just the manufacturing industry. They also service the food industry, heavy equipment, trucking, airports, and railroads. Walk-ins are also welcome, so if you need it welded, repaired, fabricated, or modified, Suburban Welding and Steel will do the laser cutting, machining, forming, and plate rolling for you. Or they have the materials you need in stock and ready for the purchase. And if you know a hardworking person looking for a career in the trade, Suburban Welding and Steel is looking to add to their team of experts. Visit suburbanweldingandsteel.com to see the full story on what they can do for you. SuburbanWeldingandSteel.com.
8:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is the service of Mattress Firm. It's Mattress Firm's best sale of the year, Labor Day sale. Save up to $900 on select adjustable mattress sets from Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, and Sealy. Plus, get up to a $300 instant gift for pillows and more. Kennedy at 90 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Outbound, they've cleared an accident between Armitage and the Edens Junction. Inbound on the Ike right now, it is an hour and a half, a little more than that, hour 35 as you travel from 390 into the old post office, barely moving between Manheim and Pulaski. Stevenson in, jam solid. Displays River Bridge to Kedzie, 1 hour from the Tri-State into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny, very hot. Chance of a strong afternoon thunderstorm and a high of 97. That thunderstorm risk moves into the evening hours. Warm and humid, a low of 73. It's mostly sunny and 80 right now. Next news at 9, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So on Friday and into yesterday, Trump got the formal endorsement of two former Democrats, RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, Friday and Monday, respectively. And I think both of them actually have hit upon some important issues that should be amplified by Trump. RFK was on with Tucker Carlson after his appearance at that Trump rally in Glendale on Friday. And he talked again about not just the importance of free speech, but the ability of a presidential candidate to use his or her speechifying to actually explain and defend the positions they take.
Being able to defend their policies and being forced to defend their policies articulately, eloquently. And, my uncle and father just thought ideas are important and we should be able to defend them. And if you can't defend them, there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
And, why? So we have a presidential candidate that was selected by the Democratic Party who can't do that.
And Tulsi Gabbard hit upon another issue, since it's not just Trump that's experienced political retaliation, it would appear. Well, certainly it's not just Trump. There's a lot of examples that we've talked about over the years, like that pro-life activist in rural Pennsylvania comes to mind, many others. But Gabbard's political retaliation, which is really curious, a former member of Congress, a former member of the military who served that country in an actual theater of war, unlike some people. She talked about the political retaliation, and there's just no explanation for it. Still waiting for one, and I'm sure we'll be waiting forever for one. Why is she being followed around by U.S. Marshals?
And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat. Kamala Harris has done this over the last 3.5 years. She won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target, added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as president. We as Americans must stand together to reject this anti-freedom culture of political retaliation and abuse of power. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
Yeah, I don't know why Tulsi Gabbard is getting the lives of others treatment. I don't know whether she's exposed anything about Kamala Harris that people don't otherwise know. People have also said. But they don't provide an explanation. And so one is left to wonder. And it's sort of interesting because I think the two issues fold together nicely. They cancel or try to silence people who speak in support of things that they don't support or in opposition to things they do support. And meanwhile, they never have to provide any explanation for anything that they say or do, no matter what the implications, no matter what comes from what they've said or done, or no matter how inconsistent what they're saying today is from what they were saying 5 minutes ago. Dan Henninger is the deputy editor of the Wall Street Journal's editorial page. He joins us now. Dan, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hi, good to be with you guys.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, you're raising a lot of interesting points there, Dan, to be sure. But, this is the current version of the Democratic Party's modus operandi, to silence their critics and not answer for it. We don't need to get into Kamala Harris's refusal so far to subject herself to any kind of serious questioning regarding the contradictions in her past positions. But let's go over to what RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard were just talking about. I think we can raise the stakes here considerably beyond the likes of Tulsi Gabbard and note that they have carried out the same actions against conservative members of the U.S. Supreme Court. We had demonstrations, right, outside the houses of the court members, Brett Kavanaugh, Samuel Alito. The attacks on Clarence Thomas have been relentless, and those attacks are meant indeed to intimidate those justices. And Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, who is a leading proponent of these criticisms of conservative justices has just said in the past few days, along with Senator Chuck Schumer, that if they get control of the Senate, Schumer will try to end the filibuster, even if he only has 50 votes. And if they manage to do that, White House says they're going to enact term limits for the Supreme Court. So they are on the offensive, and it's really a striking irony to see what hardball they do play against all of their opponents as they stage this really fairy tale of a convention in Chicago with, believe it or not, the crowd there even chanting USA, USA.
I know. Have you ever seen so many American flags? And I've never seen that at a DNC before. Have you?
Never.
So they're trying to change the narrative. They're wearing camouflage. They have the Harris Walls hat on. But do you think this is, and they're also playing country music and had the Dixies sing the national anthem. Do you think that this is going to stick, though, that this is going to, convince rural America that the Democratic Party really cares about them?
That is a really interesting question. I might get into that this week. All it has to do is last for about 70 days, right? The idea that anyone would buy into this stuff. And I think we do live in a culture now. I always try to premise these remarks at the moment by the reality that the election is going to be decided in 7 swing states by undecided voters, right? Not by the whole country, but by those people, a very small slice and percentage of voters, whether it's young men, suburban women. They're the ones who have to look at this and decide whether they believe it. Unfortunately, I think we do live in a culture. It's kind of a cell phone screen culture where people are flitting from one subject to another all the time, trying to see whether there's a new restaurant they can go to, whether there's a new line of clothes they might like to try on. People today are very susceptible and vulnerable to these kinds of marketing pitches. They look at them and they might even play with them for a while. And I think Kamala Harris does have some momentum, and it is sort of based on that she is simply new. And the question is whether she can keep this soap bubble afloat for the next 2 months. I think that's an open question.
What sort of impact do you think, particularly RFK, has coming over to Trump's camp? Because, the supposition is he's seen, his support prior to suspending his campaign. He saw support from, in some places high single digits, low double digits. It was about cut in half when Biden exited stage left and Kamala entered. So one sort of surmised that, okay, well, the what's left of RFK's support are people who are uncomfortable with Trump, but if the choice came down to Trump and somebody else, they are more likely to fall with Trump than somebody else. And so, I mean, a couple of points, even if they don't all come over, a couple of points in those swing states that you were just describing, that are the margins are razor thin. Seems like he could have a real impact.
I think he could have an impact, Dan, if he not only supports Trump, but engages in some real outreach and turnout among his supporters. Because I think a lot of those RFK supporters were young people who were really, really disaffected with both parties and disaffected with both candidates. And there's a possibility that with RFK out of the race, they simply won't vote. They will turn off. And I think there's a burden on him to appeal to them directly if he's going to support Trump, and appeal to them directly and make a case for why they should come over to Trump. It's a funny thing. We all have kids, grandchildren, or in their early 20s. Fact of the matter is, if you're a 23-year-old guy, Donald Trump looks like a pretty old guy, looks like somebody from the country club or something like that. And they just see older people differently. And I know RFK Jr. is very young, 70-something, but I think he's going to have to help Trump. It can't just be speaking on behalf of Trump. He's going to have to appeal directly to those supporters of his.
Well, I agree with that. But the Gen Z gender dichotomy is really interesting. So Gen Z, 18 to 29-year-old men, Trump's plus 10. 18 to 29-year-old women, he's minus 40. So, and historically, young men, that age demographic, turn out about 4 or 5 points less than young women. So if Trump can motivate young men to turn out, to your point about RFK as well, helping there, even if he just evens sort of the turnout numbers and the distribution doesn't change much, it certainly helps him. But, I mean, it really speaks to also what the future looks like when there is that wide a gap between young men and young women in terms of their political dispositions.
Yeah, I mean, you're raising a big subject, the psychological and economic status of young men these days. And I think on that score, Trump has talked so often about how during his first presidency, the unemployment rate among Black and Hispanic men fell so low. And I think there was a broader issue that he's talking about there that can be extended to younger white men as well, which is that Trump's presidency created economic opportunity. It created economic opportunity in the private sector, real jobs, a job you could go to and expect to get paid, unlike Kamala Harris, who is talking about the federal government showering people with money, which is somehow public money, which is somehow supposed to help them, but what it only does, and I think a lot of those young Black and Hispanic men realize that it just helps them run in place without a job. And Trump is very good at talking about, because he's a private sector guy, he's very good at talking about economic opportunity for Gen Z men. And I'm hoping that he makes that a primary pitch going forward the next 2 months.
You think this all comes down to 90 minutes on September 10th?
If that happens, another question. I don't necessarily think so. We shall see. I understand why Kamala Harris wants to use open mics. Her strategy is to poke the bear. That was their strategy during the convention. Trump is pokeable. Mm-hmm. And he understands that. He talks about it himself. So I think Trump is trying to absorb that reality, and it's going to have to take some effort on his part. But he has a case to be made on her and on her contradictions and on his own policy. And if he can do that, I think he could come out of that debate looking pretty strong.
Zuckerberg's statement yesterday that, the G did pressure me to be a censor in 20 and 21 during COVID, and I complied, and I shouldn't have, and I'm not going to do it again. I mean, we've known this for a while. It's interesting, the timing of the statement he makes and the message that he's sending. And I wonder how you interpret it and its impact as it pertains to, what RFK was talking about, this sort of the free speech and the free exchange of ideas on platforms like Meta.
It's a real problem. We went through this with COVID and the dissenters from the lockdowns and so forth, the Barrington Declaration. Those people were ostracized, and they were ostracized on social media. And it's one thing for Mark Zuckerberg to say that. It's one thing for a spokesman at Google to say that sort of thing. The problem is that the people administrating those social media sites for these companies know exactly where their politics are, and it isn't that hard for them to manipulate those algorithms in a way that suppresses people like that. So I think Zuckerberg's feet should be held to the fire, although it may well be it's just too late to do that these social media platforms are going to be used for intimidating people, ostracizing them. Let's recall, when Facebook started, the first thing people started to worry about was the way young teenage girls were being ostracized by their friends and intimidated. That was the template. And years later, we discovered you can use that same technique to ostracize and intimidate people in politics. And that's where we are today. It's unfortunate, but that's the way these social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Google are being used.
Yeah, and if you really don't like the platform or its founder, then you just arrest them.
Yeah. Telegram.
Dan Henninger, deputy editor of the Wall Street Journal's editorial page. Dan, thank you as always.
All right, good to talk to you guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, our pleasure. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Join Allie Beth Stuckey and the Illinois Family Institute for the Faith, Family, and Freedom Banquet, 7 p.m. Friday, September 6th at the Tinley Park Convention Center. For tickets, go to IllinoisFamily.org.
Christianity brings civilization, goodness.
Allie Beth Stuckey, wife, mom, author, followed by thousands on her hit Relatable podcast. Hear her fresh and firm call for Christians to lead in Illinois, in America, for faith, family, and freedom. For tickets, go to IllinoisFamily.org.
Christians have always been on the front lines of human progress, set in love.
Allie Beth Stuckey and the Illinois Family Institute's Faith, Family, and Freedom Banquet, Friday, September 6th at the Tinley Park Convention Center. For tickets, go to IllinoisFamily.org. IllinoisFamily.org.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. Summer is here, which is the ideal time to let the sunshine in and brighten up the house. Make those rooms that may appear small, dark, or dingy look better and bigger with larger windows or patio doors. Our highly skilled installers can enlarge openings if your space allows. For decades, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin windows, featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional. Marvin replacement windows and doors can also bring your backyard right into your living space. Ask us about connecting the inside to the outside. Since 1969, our professional services, along with the best products and installation, are why we are proud of our great online reviews. Need new windows now? Buy now, pay later with 0% financing for 18 months. Terms and conditions apply. Visit woodlandwindows.com and schedule an appointment today. That's woodlandwindows.com.
Right now, Bettenhausen has 0% on new Jeeps during the Labor Day sales event at Bettenhausen Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram on 159th Street in Tinley Park. Bettenhausen has 0% financing available on new Jeep Cherokees, new Jeep Wranglers, or new Jeep Compasses. Hurry into Bettenhausen in Tinley Park. Your best Jeep buying experience starts now at Bettenhausen. Showroom open 24/7 at BettenhausenCDJR.com.
The great hunt is on. Donley Auctions has buyers. They need more collections. This is Sean Thompson. If you're a collector, contact them and find out the market value. If you know a collector, tell Donley about them. If they sell it, you get a Donley's finder fee. Money for you, cash in your pocket. Randy, what are you on the hunt for now?
Hi, Sean. I'm currently looking for any old signs for my August auction. I'm especially looking for old gasoline advertising signs and even gas pumps in any condition. Old soda pop and beer signs are also very sought after, and I even have buyers for old outdoor neon and porcelain signs that advertise a business. You'd be surprised at how much some of these signs are worth, but you won't know how much they're worth until you send me pictures to DonleyAuctions.com.
Do you have any of these items? Call Donley Auctions. Do you know anybody that does have these items? Call Donley and get the Donley's finder's fee. Donley Auctions, 815-923-7000. Tell them Sean sent you.
This is Dennis Prager. Now you can listen to my show when it's convenient for you and without censorship from Big Tech. Become a member of the ultimate online community for all things Prager. It's Pragertopia Unlimited. Listen to every radio show over the last 10 years, all commercial free. You can even listen to all my Torah teachings for free. Join today and save 25% off the first year and get a free Pragertopia coffee mug. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Life is fun. All right, thanks so much for making us part of your morning, part of your lives. Thanks to Justin Kosick and Keith Conrad, who's in for Quinn McCarthy. Have a wonderful day. Now into the newsroom we go. Here's Mike Scott.
Dangerously hot weather continues to drape the Chicago area, and a woman shot during a White Sox game